Chapter 61 Twin Yin-Yang Spirit Swallowing Fish. Chapter 61. Twin Yin-Yang Spirit Swallowing Fish. There was a sensation on the stand and everyone watched with high expectations. What kind of spiritual beast would the first place of this fishing trial would have? Someone said, it must be an exotic spiritual beast. After all, the sound this spiritual beast made was different. Someone nodded. Yes. What kind of exotic fish do you think Han Fei will get? Another person guessed, I don't think his spiritual beast will be better than Tang Ji's. Someone retorted, don't count on that yet. He stayed in the pool longer than Tang Ji. Han Fei was a little excited at the moment as he felt the film was about to break. Did this mean that his spiritual beast was this tiny fish? Rip. Suddenly, the film broke and he felt a burst of spiritual energy fly into the middle of his eyebrows. What surprised him was that there seemed to be another burst of spiritual energy besides this one. A pure white fish suddenly appeared beside Han Fei and then began to revolve around him. Spirit swallowing fish. What? Just a spirit swallowing fish? Are you kidding me? I thought it was an exotic fish. No way. It caused such a stir, but it turned out to only be a spirit swallowing fish. For a moment, the people on the stand all gasped in puzzlement. Suddenly someone said, no. This spirit-swallowing fish has long barbels on its face, as well on its tail and fins. It seems to be better looking than an ordinary spirit-swallowing fish. A sharp-eyed individual pointed at the head of the little white fish and said, look, there is a black dot on the head of this spirit-swallowing fish also. Everyone else immediately looked at it and found that there was a round black dot on the fish's head indeed, but so what? It was still a spirit-swallowing fish. Someone shook his head. This is normal. I once caught a spirit-swallowing fish whose two fins were red, but wasn't it still a spirit-swallowing fish? Someone echoed. Yes, I also once caught a spirit-swallowing fish with a long black tail. It just had a little bit of mutation, but essentially it was still a spirit-swallowing fish. The village leader glanced at it, a little disappointed, but still looked at Fang Zi hoping that he could give an answer. Han Fei and He Xiaoyu also looked at Fang Zi expectantly. Fang Zi shook his head. Maybe this spirit-swallowing fish has a slight mutation but it's not prominent. Ordinary people don't understand that even the worst exotic fish are much stronger than ordinary spiritual beasts. They have to figure it out slowly by themselves. Tang Jie questioned, is it bad? Fang Zi replied, it's not good but not that bad either. Hearing Fang Zi's words, some people felt lost while others had their eyes light up. There were also some who felt disdain and of course, many people were also envious, such as those students who didn't enter the top 1,000. Some people chose to ridicule. What's the use of a spirit-swallowing fish? In terms of practicality, it's not even as good as green turtle. After all, green turtle has a very hard shell but spirit-swallowing fish can only be used to make soup. Someone tried to defend the spirit-swallowing fish. Actually, it's not bad. After all, it's still an exotic fish. At least, it has more spiritual energy than other fishes, right? Someone sneered, come on. Except for that, it can only be used for soups. Spirit-swallowing fish is the easiest to fish in level 1 fisheries. Otherwise, why would our 4 major schools have so much spirit-swallowing fish soup to drink? 1. Han Fei opened his eyes and surfaced, immediately seeing a beautiful white fish with long barbels, a long tail, and a black dot on its head. And besides the white fish, there was a little black fish with long barbels, a long tail, and a white dot on its head. A string of data flashed before his eyes. Spiritual beast. Less than name greater than twin yin-yang spirit-swallowing fish. Less than introduction greater than they're the descendants of the mysterious primitive yin-yang sky-swallowing fish. The black and white fish accompany one another. The white fish is docile, whereas the black one is cruel. They are symbiotic. As long as one lives, the other lives too. Less than level greater than level 0. Less than quality greater than mysterious. Less than spiritual energy greater than 100 points. Less than food greater than omnivorous. They can swallow everything. Less than note greater than the black fish is not visible. Except for the owner, only people with naturally born yin-yang divine eyes can see it. Han Fei's eyes glazed over. What kind of damned fishes did he get as his spiritual fishes? Twin yin-yang spirit-swallowing fish. The name sounded cool, but why was their quality mysterious? Come out. Stop looking at it. It's just a spirit-swallowing fish. What are you staring at? No matter how long you stare at it, it's still a spirit-swallowing fish. What were we excited for? It's just the most common spirit-swallowing fish. What a waste of my time. There were boos in the stands, but Han Fei just smiled. You idiots just have no idea what awesome fishes I have. But I don't mind. If I'm too outstanding, you guys will be jealous of me. Han Fei glanced at the black fish that was circling around the little white fish and his smile grew brighter. Sure enough, no one can see you. With a thought from Han Fei, 2 spiritual lights flew into the middle of his eyebrows. After Han Fei went ashore, Tang Jie patted his shoulder solemnly. It's all right. At least it's an exotic spirit-swallowing fish. And it's said that every cultivator can sign contracts with many fishes, such as the tiger head fish of the tigers. We can sign a powerful demonic fish later. Quote, He Xiaoyu said, Han Fei, don't worry about those people. All they know is to jeer at others. Maybe your spirit-swallowing fish has some effects they don't know about. Wang Jia also came to Han Fei at the moment. Exactly. Your fish is also an exotic fish. Although we often drink spirit-swallowing soup, as you can see, there are not many people who can have a spirit-swallowing fish as their spiritual beast. At this moment, the village leader shouted, Wu Lei has a spirit-swallowing fish as his spiritual beast. Wang Jia was embarrassed. Well, Han Fei's face was dark. Does your face hurt? Fang Zi was also a bit disappointed. He thought that Han Fei, who had been enlightened by a venerable level expert, should have gotten a powerful exotic spiritual beast, but it was a pity that the result was not satisfactory. They were all a bit down, but Han Fei said with a smile, What's wrong with spirit-swallowing fish? Even if it is a spirit-swallowing fish, my fish is the strongest spirit-swallowing fish in the infinite ocean. Everyone stayed silent. Some young men who didn't go down into the pool rolled their eyes. Nonsense. The strongest spirit-swallowing fish in the infinite ocean. Yes, in your dreams. Han Fei looked at Tang Jie. What spiritual beast did you get? Tang Jie wasn't sure what to say as he didn't want to discourage Han Fei. Should he say or not? But He Xiaoyu, this simple-minded girl, blurted out, an exotic fish, a legendary level dragon feather lobster that even the angel hadn't seen. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. Legendary level, Tang Jie said. One's own strength is the most important. You can't solely depend on your spiritual beast for cultivation. Han Fei knew that Tang Jie didn't want to discourage him, so he looked at He Xiaoyu and said, What about you? Did you get a big crab as your spiritual beast? He Xiaoyu pouted. No big crab. I don't like big crabs. Look, my little red looks so pretty. Quote. With a twinkle of light between He Xiaoyu's brows, a clownfish appeared in midair and swam in the air around He Xiaoyu. Han Fei blurted out, a clownfish. Smack. Xiaoyu gave him a slap. Bah, bah, it's not a clownfish but a beauty fish. Han Fei. The clownfish in Han Fei's eyes was a series of data floating in the air. Spiritual beast. Less than name greater than cardinal fish. Less than introduction greater than a rare species of fish, with strong territorial awareness and combat capability, feeds on various anemones and can digest various venoms. Less than level greater than level 0. Less than quality greater than rare. Less than spiritual energy greater than 100 points. Less than food greater than anemone. Less than note greater than if it evolves into an obsidian fish, it'll become a precious fish species. Han Fei thought about the man-eating sea anemone he saw on the seafloor and was a little surprised. Does this fish eat sea anemone? That's pretty strong. He Xiaoyu snorted. Yes, it also has a nice name, Cardinal. Han Fei asked, Did you all get exotic fishes? How many people have gotten exotic fish in total? He Xiaoyu answered, Just Tang Jie and me. Oh, Wang Baiyu has a big turtle as his spiritual beast. Your spirit-swallowing fish should be at the same level as his big turtle. Han Fei knew that He Xiaoyu was trying to comfort him. How could a spirit-swallowing fish be at the same level as a big turtle? Even giant meat turtles were way better than spirit-swallowing fish. These people who entered the pool later were quick to get their spiritual beasts. Almost no one lasted longer than half an hour, nor did they get an exotic fish. The best spiritual beast they got was a snakebelt. After them, the remaining 900 people entered the pool and the color of the water in the pool began to fade quickly. These people finished even more quickly and almost all got their spiritual beasts within 15 minutes. The best spiritual beast they obtained was a mutated tentacle lobster. When there were only dozens of people left in the pool, the green spirit awakening fluid had been completely absorbed. Some of these people burst into tears. I worked so hard to get ranked among the top 1,000 but ended up like this. Of course, Han Fei and his companions didn't see this scene because they had already gone home to practice the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing. Chapter 62 My goal is the infinite ocean. Chapter 62 My goal is the infinite ocean. The cottage where Han Fei was living had become a forbidden area and even the village leader couldn't be within a kilometer of it. 7 days later, the sunset had almost set. In Han Fei's small courtyard, Tang Jie was panting and sweating with his hands on his knees. Tang Jie was soaked with sweat but laughed. I've finally completed the 108 stances at once. He Xiaoyu was still practicing the 96th stance and her hair was muddled by sweat, but she still asked persistently, Tang Jie, how much has your upper limit increased? Tang Jie felt it and said, I'm not sure, but now it seems to stop at 299 points and can't be increased anymore. He Xiaoyu immediately exclaimed, wow, 299 points. That's so high. Is a level 9 fisher's affordability for spiritual energy so high? Mine seems to be only 199 points, but I feel it can still be increased as long as I complete all the 108 stances at once. Han Fei, how about you? Han Fei looked at his data. Less than owner greater than. Han Fei. Less than level greater than. 7 advanced fisher. Less than spiritual energy greater than. 42,892, 299. Less than spiritual heritage greater than. Level 2, low quality upgradable. Less than spiritual beast greater than. Twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish. Less than weapon greater than. Purple bamboo rod. Less than main art greater than. Void fishing, chapter 1. Hook kiss mortal level, divine quality. Han Fei wondered if 299 points was the threshold, but Tang Jie was already a level 9 fisher. Was his upper limit of spiritual energy only 299 points? On the surface, Han Fei just grinned. What a coincidence. Mine is also 199 points. He Xiaoyu's eyes lit up. I will soon surpass you. In the past few days, Han Fei didn't dare to cultivate or upgrade his spiritual heritage but rather practice the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing with Tang Jie and other companions. In fact, his upper limit had early reached 299 points. He knew his upper limit probably wouldn't increase if he didn't make a breakthrough. But his breakthrough would make a pretty big racket. He'd better not let Fang Zi, an outsider, see it, so he just practiced the 108 stances over and over again. Of course, besides that, he would also go to the plantation and barbecue stalls. But most of the barbecue he brought back was eaten by Fang Zi. This guy thought buying food at barbecue stalls would tarnish his image, so whenever he wanted to eat barbecue, he would gesture to Han Fei with his eyes and then Han Fei had to do the legwork for him. The only person who was allowed to come to this cottage these days was Li Gang, who was terrified every time he came. He, a street hooligan, almost peed the first time he saw a big shot like an angel. Fortunately, Fang Zi knew that this guy was here to send material for making distilled spirits. Otherwise, he would have killed him with a slap. At this moment, Fang Zi was amazed. Tang Jie was already a level 9 fisher with an upper limit of 299 points for spiritual energy. How many people in the city could reach this level? And he still hadn't reached the peak. If he had, wouldn't his upper limit even exceed 300 points? It seemed that only a fishing master could do this. What was my upper limit when I became a level 9 fisher? But now, only by practicing the incomplete monograph of top battle technique, even small potatoes like He Xiaoyu and Han Fei have had their upper limit reach 199 points, which was really astonishing. If Fang Zi learned that Han Fei's upper limit of spiritual energy was actually 299 points, he would be dumbfounded. No matter how poor Han Fei's spiritual heritage was, he would take him to the city. Fang Zi came down from the roof and glanced at Tang Jie. It's almost time. You can decide what to do tonight yourself. Hearing his words, Tang Jie fell silent. Was it almost time for him to leave? He Xiaoyu's eyes turned red as soon as she heard this. Was Tang Jie leaving? She had just felt as though she were making another good friend and he was about to leave. Han Fei patted Tang Jie on the shoulder and said, I'll ask Li Gang to suspend his business and specifically cook barbecue for us tonight. Tang Jie reminded him, and also liquor. Han Fei said, as much as you want. Both of them grinned. As good brothers, they connected with one another. In the evening, Li Gang quickly came over. When he reached Han Fei's cottage, he didn't even dare to look around. He was so careful that he didn't even dare to walk fast, whereas his wife Little Red looked around and seemed to be curious as to why young Master Han Fei lived in such a shabby place. Li Gang said, Red, please, don't look around. You'll offend the angel. Little Red agreed, oh, okay. At this time, Han Fei laughed. Gang, don't worry. The angel is not here. You'll be responsible for the barbecue tonight. Make as much as you can. Li Gang was relieved to hear that Fang Zi was away and immediately smiled. No problem, young master. Then they began to drink and eat barbecue and fish. Tang Jie said, in fact, Brother Fang Zi once told me that even if I went up above, I could come down and when I become stronger, I would be able to do it again. Han Fei said, it's okay. Even if you can't come down, I can go to the above to hang out with you. Makes no difference. Tang Jie smiled. I know you can do it. Everyone thinks you are relying on me, but I know you are not. You can become a level 7 fisher within a month, which proves that your talent is anything but ordinary. He Xiaoyu glanced at Han Fei and didn't quite believe Tang Jie's words, so she just silently ate her barbecue. Han Fei suddenly asked, don't people in the city go fishing? If they don't, how can they become stronger? Tang Jie answered, yes, they do, but they don't have to fly up and down every day. There seems to be a portal matrix or something like that, through which they can directly go to the sea. And it is said that they'll be sent to at least a level 2 fishery. Han Fei said, that's great. Level 2 fisheries, maybe I will be able to go there soon. Tang Jie shook his head. It is said that there are many level 2 fisheries in the city. Han Fei nodded. Yes, there are many villages and towns under a city, so there are certainly many level 2 fisheries as well. That night, they drank and ate barbecue until they were so full that they almost threw up. With a flushed face, Han Fei was drunk, but he still shouted, you go up first and I'll be there sooner or later. My goal is the infinite ocean. As a gold hunter, there is no place in the world that I dare not go. He Xiaoyu shook her head. He is drunk. Tang Jie agreed, this liquor is really strong. With that, Tang Jie got up and bowed to He Xiaoyu. He Xiaoyu, Han Fei has no friends. Maybe you're his only friend. Please help me take good care of him. He Xiaoyu pouted. But he'll bully me. Tang Jie grinned. No, he won't. Okay, I'll take care of him for the sake of him teaching me the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing, He Xiaoyu agreed. Tang Jie got up. Then I'm leaving. He Xiaoyu asked, are you leaving now? Yes, he replied before leaving. Tang Jie left with nothing left. Even the finest feast must break up at last, but he believed they would meet again. Han Fei lay on the ground muttering, my goal is the infinite ocean, and the endless treasure. The tigers. Li Ju was gloomy recently because he was so scared. Li Hu was disabled by Han Fei and the tigers were almost destroyed. Fortunately, his spiritual fish survived, although it almost faced death. He was very angry and eager to kill Han Fei, but he did not dare make a move. As long as Tang Jie and Fang Zi were still here, he didn't dare to act rashly. Li Ju, come out. Li Ju's heart trembled. Did they come? Then he smiled bitterly. This day had finally come. He knew this would happen when Li Hu robbed Han Fei. No matter how powerful he was nothing but an ant in Fang Zi's eyes, something to be crushed with one finger. At the gate of the tigers, Li Ju said, welcome, young master Tang Jie. Tang Jie didn't bother to hide the murderous intention in his eyes. Let's not waste our time. I know what kind of person you are. You are very angry now and you want to kill my brother. Li Ju said, I dare not. Tang Jie smiled. I had planned to kill you myself, but when I saw Han Fei today, I thought it was unnecessary. You, Li Ju, only deserve to be my brother's stepping stone. Li Ju remained silent, but his clenched fists revealed his inner rage. Tang Jie sneered, no matter how angry you are, you and your men tried to kill my brother more than once. You're exempt from the death penalty but hardly from punishment. I'll give you another chance. Wound yourself and make sure you won't recover within half a year. A cold gleam flickered in Li Ju's eyes. Does Tang Jie really want to keep me as a stepping stone for Han Fei? But does Han Fei deserve this? Li Ju bit his mouth in resentment till it bled, but he said without hesitation, thank you for sparing my life, young Master Tang Jie. Bang, bang, bang. Li Ju's body was covered with dozens of wounds. As blood flowed out from his wounds, he also vomited a large mouthful of blood. Fang Zi appeared beside Tang Jie silently at this moment, watching the scene indifferently. Tang Jie looked at Fang Zi, who nodded, signaling that Li Ju had done as he was asked to. On the way back, Fang Zi asked, are you sure that Han Fei really can break that stepping stone? Tang Jie nodded. Yes, he is no longer the former Han Fei. I'm pretty sure of this. The former Han Fei wouldn't have had a chance, but the current Han Fei can definitely make it. Chapter 63 Spiritual Heritage Upgraded. Chapter 63 Spiritual Heritage Upgraded. When Han Fei woke up the next day, Tang Jie had gone. He Xiaoyu was still eating barbecue, and when she saw that Han Fei had woken up, she shouted, you're awake. Wanna have some breakfast? Han Fei asked, He Xiaoyu, have you eaten all night? He Xiaoyu replied, no, I just started eating. Han Fei looked at the pile of skewers in front of her and sighed. Did I starve you or what? Hurry home. A gang needs to go back to work. He Xiaoyu pouted. Tang Jie asked me to take care of you and not let anyone kill you. Han Fei was a little incredulous. You, take care of me, do you think you can beat those I can't? He Xiaoyu defended herself, well, I can have Cardinal fight for me. The angel once said that Cardinal could be very strong. But it's only level 0 now. Ask your father to help you upgrade your Cardinal at once. Otherwise, he might be bitten to death by someone else's yellow fish. He Xiaoyu shouted back, that's impossible. A spiritual beast will never be killed by an ordinary demonic fish unless by special means. And even if a spiritual beast is dead, there is a chance to summon it back from the spiritual sea. Spiritual sea, He Xiaoyu explained, well, it's an invisible sea. It is said that all spiritual beasts were born in the spiritual sea. Han Fei hadn't heard of it before, so he simply said to He Xiaoyu, now go home. Otherwise, your father will think you were abducted by me. What if he comes here to hold me accountable? Humph, fine, I'm leaving. I'm going to ask my dad to help me upgrade Cardinal. I'm here to pick you up. Heming Tang's voice suddenly sounded from a short distance away. Noticing that his daughter seemed greatly changed and her face glowed with vigor, Heming Tang smiled. Xiaoyu, come home with me. You've just gotten your spiritual beast, and not to mention, an exotic fish. You've gotta treat it carefully. Dad, can Han Fei come home with us? He Xiaoyu pleaded. No, no. Heming Tang and Han Fei spoke in unison. Cough, cough. Heming Tang said, you can be rest assured. Last night, the leader of the Tigers, Li Ju, was seriously injured and may not be able to engage in any physical fights for at least 6 months. Now some people have begun to rectify the public security in the eastern port, and the development of the Tigers have also been restricted. I am afraid that it will take at least a few months for Li Ju to recover. Han Fei thought to himself, was Li Ju seriously injured? Heming Tang took a deep look at Han Fei. Why would he be seriously injured? This was probably done by Tang Jie before he left, who feared Li Ju would hurt Han Fei. But everyone wondered why Tang Jie didn't kill Li Ju. It stood to reason that even if Tang Jie wiped out the Tigers, no one in Heavenly Water Village would stand up for them. Han Fei laughed. That's great. He Xiaoyu, just go home. Now the Tigers are no longer a threat and I'm going to work as an apprentice in the plantation. You can't keep following me. He Xiaoyu said, humph, then I'm leaving. When you see me next time, my Cardinal will have become very powerful. After he Xiaoyu left, Han Fei took a deep breath. Finally, they had all left. At the door of his cottage, Han Fei summoned the twin yin-yang spirit-swallowing fishes. The two little fishes played and swam back and forth. The white one suddenly stopped and seemed to be looking at Han Fei, whereas the black one dove straight to the bottom of the tank. Crack! Han Fei was stunned to see that the shell of a large sea clam at the bottom of the water tank was bitten through and the black fish was drilling into the shell. Within a few minutes, the sea clam shell was all that was left. But this little guy wasn't full yet and bit through another big sea mussel shell. Wow, the black fish is so fierce. Little White, I will call you Little White from now on. Little Black is too fierce. Let's not play with him. Unexpectedly, as Han Fei just finished saying this, and with a whoosh, the black spirit-swallowing fish suddenly jumped out of the water and spat at Han Fei. Han Fei was dumbfounded. Hey, it's just a joke. Do you have to be so angry? Fine, we'll play with you, alright. Little guy, you're pretty grumpy. Han Fei thought to himself, sea clams are not very nutritious. Should I go to the sea to catch some better food to feed these two little guys? Forget it, it's been a bit painful to suppress this breakthrough these past few days. Let me make the breakthrough first. Han Fei entered the cave and sat down. But the first thing he did was not make the breakthrough but upgrade his spiritual heritage. He had waited for half a month and now the people who could detect that something was wrong with his body should have disappeared. He could finally upgrade safely. Upgrade. With a thought from Han Fei, in a split second, his body was enshrouded with spiritual energy. He immediately felt his bones numb and then a needling pain. At the same time, impurities began to ooze out of his pores and after a while, he felt his bones become a little stiff but more powerful. At this time, Han Fei was glad that he didn't choose to upgrade in front of Fang Zi. Otherwise, such an obvious situation of his tendons washing and marrow cleansing would definitely be noticed and then he wouldn't even know how to explain it. About half an hour later, the spiritual energy enshrouding him was mostly absorbed and no impurities oozed out anymore. At this time, Han Fei looked at his own data. Han Fei, 7 Advanced Fisher, 100 points. Level 2, Mid-Quality Upgradable, Twin Yin-Yang Spirit Swallowing Fishes. Purple Bamboo Rod, Void Fishing, Chapter 1, Hook Kiss Mortal Level, Divine Quality. Han Fei couldn't help but twitch his mouth. So he had consumed as much as 10,000 points of spiritual energy and his spiritual heritage just upgraded from level 2, low quality, to level 2, mid quality. But to his slight surprise, the upper limit of spiritual energy his body could afford had increased by 10 points, though he had only upgraded his spiritual heritage and hadn't continued to strengthen his body with the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing yet. Can it still be upgraded? Han Fei clicked open. Upgrade spiritual heritage, again, only to find that the spiritual energy was still 10,000 points. He suddenly understood that the so-called upgrade didn't mean the upgrade of level but of quality. But it made sense. If spiritual heritage could be upgraded to level 3 with merely 10,000 points of spiritual energy, then it wouldn't take long for him to upgrade his spiritual heritage to level 7. Sure enough, there were still restrictions. Otherwise, it would be upgraded too fast. Upgrade. Han Fei chose to upgrade again without hesitation. Then he repeated exactly the same process as before. Han Fei, 7 Advanced Fisher, 22,892, 319. Level 2, High Quality Upgradable, Twin Yin-Yang Spirit Swallowing Fishes. Purple Bamboo Rod, Void Fishing, Chapter 1, Hook Kiss Mortal Level, Divine Quality. Can it be upgraded again? Han Fei continued to click it open but frowned. This time, it needed 20,000 points of spiritual energy. Then wouldn't his spiritual energy be all consumed? After thinking about it, Han Fei didn't choose to upgrade immediately. After all, he still needed to make a breakthrough. Once he chose to upgrade his spiritual heritage, he wouldn't have enough spiritual energy left for the breakthrough. But he didn't choose to make a breakthrough either. After all, his spiritual heritage had been upgraded to level 2, high quality. Did that mean that his upper limit of spiritual energy had also increased? So he began to practice the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing. 3 hours later, Han Fei had sweat all over his body and found that his upper limit of spiritual energy had reached 326 points. So it could really continue to increase. Han Fei was overjoyed. It was said that a reserve of 300 points or more was the amount of spiritual energy that only a fishing master could possess. 2 days later, Han Fei walked out of the cave. Seeing that now he only had 8,200 points of spiritual energy left, Han Fei felt his heart ache. The upgrading consumed too much spiritual energy. Upgrading to level 8 fisher had cost him more than 10,000 points of spiritual energy. Then what about upgrading to level 9? Or even to a fishing master? And what about the improvement of spiritual heritage? Han Fei sighed. He would have to work at the barbecue stall again. Han Fei wasn't disappointed though. After all, he may have done what others could only do for a few months or even a few years in one night, as his upper limit had been raised to 359 points. Others needed to work slowly and attract spiritual energy to strengthen their bodies, whereas he made it straight to the peak of level 8. Although more than 10,000 points of spiritual energy was a lot, it laid a solid foundation for him. Now he just needed to accumulate spiritual energy, secure his foundation, and continue to make a breakthrough when his spiritual energy was sufficient. Han Fei suddenly remembered that he had promised the old man in the plantation to help him with his work, and he would have broken his promise if he didn't do it now. After all, the awakening rituals had passed for several days now. So Han Fei picked up a jar of liquor and went to the plantation. Chapter 64 5 Major Professions. Chapter 64 5 Major Professions. Grandpa, I brought you some liquor. I can hear you. Don't make such a fuss. Don't you know you aren't supposed to wake up a sleeping old man? Han Fei pretended not to hear him and retorted, if you really want to sleep, I won't bother you. I hurried here to help you with the plantation as soon as the spiritual beast awakening ended. The old man took the liquor jar naturally, opened the lid, and sniffed. Then he moved his beard aside, picked up a grilled fish, and began to eat. The old man asked, Boy, I heard that you won first place in the fishing trial. Yes, the old man went on asking, I heard that the angel gave you the spirit concentration art, right? But you only got a spirit swallowing fish as your spiritual beast. That thing can only be used for soup. Han Fei asked, You sleep every day. Where do you hear the news? The old man answered, From that fatty. Han Fei knew he meant Li Gang, who was responsible for delivering liquor and barbecue to the old man a while ago. However, Han Fei shook his head and said, My fish is the #1 spirit-swallowing fish in the infinite ocean. It's a fish with ideals and goals. Whew, the old man almost choked and he ridiculed, it's just a spirit-swallowing fish. #1 spirit-swallowing fish in the infinite ocean. Are you kidding me? Han Fei shrugged. I won't argue with you about this. When I shoot to fame one day, you'll know how awesome my twin yin-yang spirit-swallowing fishes are. The old man took 2 sips of liquor and put down the jar. In fact, you're not normally qualified to help me with the plantation, but since you've got the spirit concentration art, you're just barely qualified. From now on, the 1,000 acres of the plantation will be handed over to you. Don't forget to turn the soil, weed, sow seeds, water the plants, and gather spiritual energy. Well, that's all. Han Fei was stunned as he looked at the seemingly endless plantation, dumbfounded. Grandpa, I would like to ask who turned the soil, weeded, sowed seeds, watered the plants, and gathered spiritual energy before. And what is gathering spiritual energy about? The old man hummed. I just let them grow on their own before and would pick a few red fruits when I was thirsty. As for gathering spiritual energy, the fields need to be fertilized and spiritual energy is the fertilizer. If you don't gather spiritual energy with spirit concentration art, do you think spiritual energy will drill into the fields by itself? Han Fei questioned further, so you mean you just let the plants grow by themselves before, but now I need to do all these jobs after the plants are handed over to me? The old man tilted his head. Yes, are you not willing to take them over? Han Fei wanted to hit this old man's head with an iron-headed fish. I've never done these damn chores before, and now you want me to do them all of a sudden? Fine, of course I'm willing to, but Grandpa, I haven't learned spirit concentration art yet. The old man said, then learn it. Or else why did the angel bother to give it to you? Han Fei's eyelids twitched. This old man sounded so arrogant and showed no respect to the angel when he talked about him. Just as he guessed, this old man must be a recluse bigshot. Grandpa, I can't keep calling you Grandpa. Can you tell me your name? It'll be more convenient for me, Han Fei asked. The old man sneered, FCK off. You're just my worker. Why do you need to know your boss's name? Han Fei. Han Fei nodded. All right, then I'll just call you Grandpa. You're the boss. You call the shots. He turned around, only to see the thousands of acres of plantation, and he almost blacked out. Forget it, it's too troublesome to till the land. I'll learn the spirit concentration art first. The old man, drinking and eating barbecue and occasionally peanuts, looked so aloof. Han Fei could only find a random place to sit down and begin to read the jade slip Fang Zi gave to him. Han Fei was attracted to the book at first glance because what was introduced in the beginning of the book was not spirit concentration art but the 5 major professions on the floating island. The 5 major professions were the only way to become a strong man. Almost every fishing master started from studying the 5 major professions. In the town, many fisher-level students had begun to study the 5 major professions. The 5 major professions were respectively: a spirit gatherer who could continuously draw spiritual energy from the world. On the battlefield, whoever had the best spirit gatherer would have the initiative in their hands. A spirit gatherer could not only gather spiritual energy, but also set up a matrix. During the battle, a spirit gatherer could continuously convey spiritual energy to companions and play a pivotal role. A soul warrior was a battle-oriented profession. Compared to the other 4 major professions, a soul warrior had the strongest combat power. Countless people scrambled to become a soul warrior because they usually had the best weapons and most skills. A manipulator, which was difficult to become, who owned spiritual plants instead of ordinary spiritual beasts. They could control spiritual plants and even mimic creatures with spiritual energy, with which they acquire combat power. A hunter, with strong mental power and explosive power. It was also difficult to be a hunter. They were kings of assassination and usually only practiced the strongest and most deadly combat skills. Hunters, enemies could hardly survive the first round of a fight with them. Being an armorist required lots of equipment. They needed a variety of weapons for both attacking and defending. If they were in a team, they would be responsible for the equipment supply. Most importantly, armorists were physically the strongest, best in defense, and usually the richest in the 5 major professions. Each armorist was a master of physical training. Wow! When Han Fei read this part, he took a deep breath. Are these the 5 major professions? Each of them look awesome. Han Fei remembered the armorist of the Wang family and Wang Baiyu, who he met during the fishing trial. They both had a box with them. Was that box used for containing weapons? Yes, when he fought him that day, he saw 2 cold flashes as 2 swords came out. In the Heavenly Water Village where everyone used sticks, if you used a sword, it showed that you were very different and very strong. It was a pity that what was written on Fang Zi's jade slip was merely a general introduction that didn't analyze the pros and cons of each profession specifically, nor did it make clear which profession was the best. Perhaps it was because it was hard to choose the best one. Han Fei continued to read, and the following was about the cultivation methods of a spirit gatherer. If you wanted to become a spirit gatherer, you must have a high degree of control over spiritual energy. You must be able to freely mobilize and use spiritual energy in your own body, only then can you mobilize spiritual energy outside. Of course, this didn't mean that a spirit gatherer could endlessly absorb spiritual energy from the world. If the spiritual energy in the world was all yours, you could even become a sea god. A spirit gatherer must pay a price every time he practiced spirit concentration art. It required the spirit gatherer's physical energy and mental energy and would consume his spiritual energy. Of course, as a spirit gatherer could absorb spiritual energy from the world, no one would take their consumed spiritual energy seriously. That was to say, a spirit gatherer was not omnipotent as they had their limits. If the overall consumption was too large, they had to rest. And at this time, they were most vulnerable and could be easily killed by others. Of course, what a spirit gatherer was capable of was not only spirit concentration art, but also many other skills, such as gathering cloud rain, summoning gusts of wind, and some powerful spirit gatherers could even summon thunderbolts from the ninth heaven. However, Han Fei, a weak newbie who hadn't yet started, didn't have much to worry about. For now, he could only learn the simplest spirit gathering skills. Following the instructions on the jade slip, everyone could feel the spiritual points in their own bodies which could be controlled. And the first thing Han Fei was going to do was split these spiritual points and prevent them from jumbling together in his body, which could also improve the efficiency of spiritual energy used. Reading the jade slip, Han Fei began to practice. Spiritual energy balls were not difficult to find. They gathered in his dantian, but in Han Fei's eyes, they were intertwined. He tried to mobilize them, but as soon as he tried, dozens of spiritual points danced simultaneously, so he pulled these dozens of spiritual points all over his body with his thoughts. To the old man, in Han Fei's body, a cloud of gas ran from his forehead to his chest, then to his arms and finally ending in the legs. "Are you an idiot? Can't you just make them stop and carefully pull one point out? The rest of the spiritual energy will go back by itself." Although Han Fei had closed his eyes, he could still hear. Hearing the old man's words, he was amazed. What? The spiritual energy can go back by itself? So Han Fei quickly made the spiritual energy stop. Sure enough, as soon as it stopped, they tried to run back. At this time, Han Fei fixed onto one spiritual point and the spiritual energy ball immediately shrank in half. Then Han Fei carefully repeated this process over and over again. As sweat trickled down his forehead, he finally managed to separate a spiritual energy ball containing 4 or 5 spiritual points. In the end, however, maybe the traction force wasn't enough. As soon as he wasn't concentrated enough, the 4 or 5 spiritual points started running back and Han Fei's mind quickly chased behind them. As a result, when his mind finally caught up to them, they were already in his dantian and the 4 or 5 spiritual points formed a mass like raindrops falling into the sea. Little did he know, the old man was watching him while drinking outside, nodding from time to time. Chapter 65 Spiritual Beast Upgraded. Chapter 65 Spiritual Beast Upgraded. During the night, the moon was clear and stars were sparse, and in the plantation, only the wind could be heard. Han Fei was still struggling to control the spiritual energy in his body, but he gradually mastered the new skills. Now he could succeed 5 or 6 times out of 10 attempts and his speed was much faster than the first time. The old man could see that this lad was so immersed in building his skills that he was completely free from outside interference. He was simply a born spirit gatherer. Are you sure you want him to manage such a large plantation by himself? If Han Fei was sober at the time, he would have found a person he knew very well standing next to the old man, Zhang Qin, the registrar from the port. The old man said, "He asked for it. I didn't ask him to come." Zhang Qin questioned further, "Perhaps he has a certain talent for spirit gathering, but does he have a talent for alchemy?" The old man answered, "I don't see it that way. This brat has a very good ability for control. This kind of person usually has good alchemy and refinery skills too. Of course, I just gave him a chance. Let's see how long it will take him to familiarize himself with the 1,000 kinds of useless spiritual fruits in this low-level plantation. I don't expect him to become an alchemist. Let him take his chance. If he succeeds, I'll recommend him to the plantation in town with hundreds of thousands of acres and tens of thousands of different spiritual fruits. What if he can make a difference?" Zhang Qin was silent for a moment. "I think he can become a soul warrior. He survived so many small fish tides, indicating that he has certain combat ability. In the fishing trial, he beat Li Hu and Sha Wushuang with low-level spiritual heritage, which further proves this." The old man sneered, "Nonsense. What's the point of fighting and killing? Can 10 soul warriors put together beat one spirit gatherer?" Zhang Qin said after a short pause, "I don't care what he will become. I'm just wondering why he upgrades so fast. If the spiritual heritage test wasn't wrong, it must be because he has some sort of chance." The old man said, "He is good at body tempering, far better than his peers and even better than the heavenly talents in the town. The opportunity he got should be about body tempering." In the morning, the old man was still sleeping but someone kept exclaiming, "Wow! Wow! Wow! Shut up, brat." Han Fei grinned. "Grandpa, I made it. Look." Han Fei stood still, and about 7 or 8 seconds later, a spiritual point was gathered at his fingertip. He laughed triumphantly. The old man rolled his eyes. You spent a whole night just learning to separate spiritual energy. What a disgrace it took you so long. Well, Han Fei asked timidly, Grandpa, how long is it supposed to take? The old man said with a straight face, when you shorten the time to about a second, you're close to success. A real spirit gatherer can mobilize spiritual energy with his thoughts and doesn't even need a second. I see. Han Fei tilted his head. Grandpa, it's just a matter of practice. Practice makes perfect. Then practice, the old man encouraged. Han Fei. Han Fei scratched his head and thought to himself, is it so difficult to be a spirit gatherer? It's surely difficult to separate spiritual points in an instant. All right, this old man seems to be a big shot. Let me just do what he said. Han Fei sat down again. Han Fei laughed out loud. Grandpa, I succeeded. Ha ha ha, I'm a genius. Grandpa, I made it. As Han Fei raised his hand, a spiritual point fluttered on his fingertip. The old man said grumpily, stop calling me Grandpa. I'm not your grandpa. Genius my ass. It took you so long to separate a spiritual point within standard time. Can't you see that I've even drank all my liquor? Hurry and get me some more. Han Fei muttered as he went out, what's the problem with this old guy? Although it took me some time, I still succeeded. Han Fei didn't know that soon after he walked away, the old man quickly took a mouthful of liquor to calm down. He was shocked. Does this brat have such a great aptitude for spirit gathering? How long did it take him to separate spiritual points? It seemed to be half a year. In the most delicious in the world barbecue stall. Li Gang and his wife had completely become barbecue masters, so their barbecue stall was still very busy. Although many people lost interest in barbecue after tasting it, they could still sell half as much as before. Seeing Han Fei coming to help, Li Gang quickly said, oh, young master, we will do this ourselves. How can we trouble you to do it? Han Fei said, it's all right. Go about your business. I'm here to feed fish. Li Gang looked puzzled. With a twinkle of light between Han Fei's brow, the twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fishes appeared. Of course, Li Gang could only see the white one. Li Gang's mouth twitched. Young master, do spirit swallowing fish eat these fish? Aren't they supposed to eat spiritual energy? Han Fei turned his eyes to him. Li Gang's words reminded him. Yes, spirit swallowing fish eat spiritual energy. Why the hell do I feed them fish? Dozens of spiritual points immediately appeared on Han Fei's fingertips, and he moved his fingers to the fishes, only to see Xiaobai quickly swim over and swallow them in one bite. As I guessed, Little White likes eating spiritual energy, but I don't know how much I should feed him in a day. Come eat some, Little Black. However, Han Fei discovered that Little Black didn't eat his spiritual energy at all. Instead, he swam into the fishes and soon a fishbone appeared in the bucket. Oh, Little White eats spiritual energy but Little Black doesn't. Questions kept popping up in Han Fei's head, as after he checked the data, he realized that the two fishes should have two sets of data but there was only one. So what does twin fishes mean? Can spiritual energy be shared by the two fishes? If either one is full, the other won't be hungry. With these thoughts, Han Fei quickly took Little Black out of the bucket while the spiritual energy from his fingertips was constantly supplying Little White. 100, 200, 500, 800 points. Han Fei's face was all dark. Well, aren't you AFC King Pig? Do you think spiritual energy is for free? It's been only a few minutes and you've eaten 800 points of spiritual energy, you little foodie. When Little White ate as much as 1000 points of spiritual energy, he stopped. Then as a light flashed across his surface, he seemed to grow up a little bit, which could hardly be detected. Han Fei immediately looked at the data. Spiritual beast. Twin yin-yang spirits swallowing fishes. They're the descendants of the mysterious primitive yin-yang sky swallowing fish. The black and white fish accompany each other. The white fish is docile, whereas the black one is cruel. They are symbiotic. As long as one lives, the other doesn't die. 1. Mysterious. 100 points. Omnivorous. They can swallow everything. Note the black fish is not visible. Except for the owner. Only people with naturally born yin-yang divine eyes can see it. Damn. Li Gang stuck his head out from the barbecue booth. Young master, what's wrong? Han Fei said. Nothing. You may do your own work. Han Fei didn't know what to say. He spent 1,000 points of spiritual energy to upgrade the fishes to level 1 and his spiritual energy reserve was cleared to 0. That's ridiculous. I'm a human being, a big, strong man, and I worked so hard to reach the upper limit for spiritual energy of 326 points. But now I feel as though I'm good for nothing compared to this level 1 fish. Although he was shocked, Han Fei still took Little White out, no longer feeding him spiritual energy, and then threw Little Black back into the bucket. It just swam in the bucket, ignoring Yellow Fish, Little White Fish, and all others fishes. Wow, are you guys full? Just as Han Fei guessed, the two were actually one. If one was full, the other one would not be hungry. Han Fei was quite happy. Although he hadn't learned the other abilities of these two fish yet, he was glad to find out about their upgrading conditions and spiritual energy storage capacity. After Han Fei refilled the 1,000 points of spiritual energy he had lost, he headed for the plantation carrying barbecue and liquor. Han Fei asked, Grandpa, do you think I can go check those spiritual fruits now? The old man was impatient. Why are you in such a hurry? Learn to walk before you run. Can you absorb spiritual energy drifting in the air? Give it a try. Han Fei asked this with a purpose. He actually wanted to plant the fruits into Forge the Universe. Why? It was convenient for him to pick fruits directly from Forge the Universe in the future so that he could eat spiritual fruits for free. Then he wouldn't have to work in the damned plantation anymore. In fact, he had done so already, throwing in condiments such as garlic, chili, ginger, etc. Unfortunately, they hadn't sprouted yet, and he didn't know if they could. After being scolded by the old man, Han Fei could only continue his cultivation pitifully. Chapter 66 Birth of a Genius. Chapter 66 Birth of a Genius. Han Fei spent 4 days learning to manipulate spiritual energy in his body. He thought he had just passed this first step. This time he was learning how to guide the spiritual points drifting in the outside world, which was a bit more difficult. This was a spirit-gathering skill for beginners, and he continued to read the Jade Slip to learn how. It was written on the Jade Slip that there was a vast amount of spiritual energy between the heavens and earth, that the spiritual energy was invisible but drifting around us at all times, and what a spirit-gatherer needed to do was to capture and control it. At first, Han Fei felt that this was like practicing void fishing, drawing the spiritual energy between the heavens and earth into his body, but he felt it was not the same thing after he tried it. The function of void fishing was to absorb the spiritual energy into one's own body and nourish the body, so as to strengthen one's body. But spirit concentration art was a different case. A spirit gatherer could send the spiritual energy he captured to other people's bodies, which was different in nature from the former. The first step to capture these spiritual points was to see them, which was the first thing a spirit gatherer had to learn. Thus, all spirit gatherers had to practice a technique about eyes, which was called pupil spell. Pupil spell was universal to all spirit gatherers, so there was no one stronger than anyone else because the spell's only function was to see spiritual energy. Therefore, when Han Fei was reading the contents about pupil spell, the sign of technique upgrade appeared in the system. Incomplete. The Eyes of True Vision. A universal pupil spell used by ancient spirit gatherers. As time went by, it had been incomplete, and it took 10,000 points of spiritual energy to get the complete version. Han Fei almost cried when he saw this note. This is just a minor spell to see spiritual energy, but it actually requires 10,000 points to get the complete version. Although it may be a once-for-all cost, isn't that expensive? Now, all the spiritual energy I have is only 8,200 points. Not long after Han Fei sat down, he was scared. Grandpa, I'm going to take 2 days off. The old man gave him a stare. What, you just got here several minutes ago and now you're asking for leave? I suddenly remembered that I have something urgent to tend to, so I have to go. I will bring you some good liquor and barbecue when I'm back. With that, Han Fei slipped away like a ghost. To Han Fei's frustration, although he was still so far away from being a fishing master, his spiritual energy was being spent like water. He could hardly make ends meet now. Even a minor auxiliary pupil spell cost him 10,000 points of spiritual energy. Then how much would he have to spend to be a fishing master? Li Gang was busy grilling meat, and Little Red wiped the sweat from his face from time to time. The couple looked so sweet together. Since Li Gang quit the tigers, he had completely changed and was a family man now. Li Gang raised his head and found that Han Fei was back. Li Gang was surprised. "Young master, were you driven out?" Han Fei sneered. "Haha, how could I possibly be driven out? I can go to a place like the plantation any time I'd like. I just felt a little bored over there, so I'm going to stay at the barbecue stall for 2 days. Aren't you bored processing fish at the barbecue stall?" Shut up. Han Fei was speechless. Why is this big guy so stupid he cannot just let things slide? Han Fei had considered going to the sea for fish tides, but after giving it a second thought, he thought it was too troublesome. It was quicker to earn spiritual energy to process fish at the barbecue stall. Although the barbecue wasn't as popular it used to be, it wouldn't be a problem for him to get 10,000 or so points of spiritual energy in 2 days. Soon, 2 days passed by. Being tortured by the fishy odor, Han Fei swore he would never ever come to process fish again if he found an easier way to earn spiritual energy. Wang Jia and He Mingtang came to buy barbecue every night. Every time they saw him, they would ask him questions and nag him. "Han Fei, how's your cultivation going recently?" "Han Fei, the village leader is arranging jobs for graduates. Don't slack off." "Han Fei, grilling fish here every day will get you nowhere." "Han Fei, have you given up on yourself?" Han Fei was afraid to see He Mingtang and Wang Jia now. These two bastards were such nags. The old man was much better than them. He was busy drinking and eating barbecue all day long and never bothered him unless he came to him first. As soon as he had accumulated 20,000 points of spiritual energy, Han Fei immediately upgraded his spiritual pupils. Ultra Quality, the Eyes of True Vision. A universal pupil spell used by ancient spirit gatherers, with which one can easily find the drifting spiritual points between the heavens and earth. The technique was easy to use and cost Han Fei very little to acquire it. According to the instructions on how to use the Eyes of True Vision, he just needed to cover his eyes with spiritual energy and then focus. So when Han Fei used the Eyes of True Vision for the first time, he discovered that the world was full of small spiritual points drifting around. The old man was sleeping. Han Fei said, "Grandpa, I've brought you liquor and barbecue. May I put them on the table?" The old man hummed. "Okay." Then, silently, he got up and began to drink and eat his barbecue while Han Fei sat casually on the ground and started to capture spiritual points. As soon as he opened the Eyes of True Vision, with a gagging sound, the old man squirted the liquor out of his mouth. Han Fei glanced back at him with a frown, as if blaming him for disturbing his cultivation. The old man was shocked. "Damn, what did I see? It's only been 2 days. Didn't the brat say he had something urgent to tend to? How did he come back with spiritual pupils?" The old man began to recall how long it took him to get spiritual pupils. It seemed to be half a year. But this brat only used 2 days. That's really unfair. Is his spiritual heritage really a low-quality one? I don't believe it. But when he saw that Han Fei was trying to capture the spiritual points in the air with his hands, he almost laughed out loud. Is this brat a genius or an idiot? Capture spiritual energy with hands? Are you kidding me? But the old man kept the thoughts to himself. Since you're so quick to learn, then figure it out yourself. After trying a few times, Han Fei also felt it didn't work well. The spiritual energy was drifting around. Even if he caught some in his hands, they were gone as soon as he opened them. It was just like trying to capture air with hands and was not going to work. Han Fei continued to read the jade slip that said spiritual energy must be guided and he should mobilize the spiritual energy in his body to guide the spiritual points outside. So, Han Fei concentrated some spiritual energy in his body at his fingertips and tried to attract the spiritual points outside. Sure enough, it worked this time. Some spiritual points ran to Han Fei's fingertips, but there were too few of them and only 5 or 6 points. He tried dozens of times but didn't make much progress. Han Fei began to ponder, As specified in the Jade Slip, a spirit gatherer needed to consume spiritual energy in spirit gathering, but just now he had only concentrated the spiritual energy in his body at his fingertips without consuming any of it. Then, Han Fei attracted some spiritual points to his fingertips and then held up his fingers to cover his fingers with spiritual energy. In an instant, spiritual points gathered up from all directions, which were as many as 50 or 60. Han Fei was in a state of meditation now. As a person from a different world, he thought more than others. Think about it, if I want to convey spiritual energy to others, are 50 or 60 spiritual points enough? It may be enough for fishers, but what about people above fisher levels? Obviously not enough. Then what should I do in this case? Han Fei's first idea was to export more spiritual points from his body, but then he found it would consume too much spiritual energy in this way. What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? Han Fei was completely immersed in deep thinking and could no longer perceive the outside world. Little did he know, however, the old man was dumbfounded. I've given him no hint. How can he learn so fast? It was getting dark and Zhongqin came over. Seeing Han Fei sitting on the ground pointing his fingers to the sky, and that his fingertips were shining, she widened her eyes. Zhongqin stammered, "Grandpa, he has learned it." The old man replied, "How can I know? He is still self-teaching, already fully immersed." Zhongqin took a deep breath. How long did it take him? The old man said grumpily, "You can count the days. It took him 6 days at most." Zhongqin exclaimed, "I think he may be a genius spirit gatherer." The next second, she saw a lot more spiritual points gathering at Han Fei's fingertips. Both she and the old man knew that this was definitely not the same spiritual energy in their bodies. Han Fei's heart was dancing with joy. So that's what it is. Exchange the spiritual points in my body with those in the outside world. As this process goes along, I can export more spiritual points and at the same time attract more from the outside world. Up to this moment, his fingertips had gathered at least 200 spiritual points. Han Fei thought to himself, what's the next step? To transfer these spiritual points to other people's bodies. Chapter 67 Digging the Ground. Chapter 67 Digging the Ground. Han Fei only had a moment's thought before he had an idea about how to transfer spiritual energy into other people's bodies. Since fishers could transmit spiritual energy to the fishing line, make it expand and contract and thus set the fishing hook in motion, he could learn from this method. He had been practicing hook kiss for so long and certainly knew how to do it. So Han Fei got up and looked at the old man. As he pointed a finger at him, a light entered into the old man's body. There's someone next to him. Han Fei didn't notice who this person was, but an idea soon occurred to him. What if I convey spiritual energy to more than one person at the same time? So Han Fei held up his left hand and in an instant, with a flash on his fingertips, a light also entered Zhongqin's body. Bam! The liquor jar in the old man's hand fell to the ground. Zhongqin widened her eyes and a curious look appeared on her serious face. Ha ha ha! Suddenly, the spiritual energy disappeared abruptly and Han Fei laughed wildly. He pointed to the old man and said, "Grandpa, did you see that? I told you I was a genius. I made it, I made it, ha ha ha." Han Fei waited for the old man to praise him. After quite a while, however, the old man remained silent. Then he noticed that there was a person standing next to the old man. "Hi, Sister Qin." Zhongqin nodded slightly. "Han Fei, how did you just do that?" Han Fei was confused. "Huh, what?" Zhongqin wanted to understand what had happened. "The last step, the step where you transferred spiritual energy to our bodies." Han Fei replied, "I did it just like fishing. Don't you just throw the fishing line out with a whoosh in fishing?" The old man, Zhongqin. After a long time, Zhongqin muttered, "He's a genius, undoubtedly." The old man swallowed. "Don't show off. I learned all this in a day when I was young. How long did it take you?" 6 days. How do you have a face to show off?" Han Fei scratched his head and Zhongqin rolled her eyes as she thought, "Fine, I won't debunk you. Just keep on bragging." Han Fei asked, "Sister Qin, why are you here?" Zhongqin smiled, "Because my home is here." Huh. Han Fei was startled. clutching his chest and pointing at the old man, saying, You. Grandpa, is Sister Chin your wife? Ha! A prawn was thrown at Han Fei's face and the old man scolded, What are you talking about? She is my granddaughter. Seeing Zhang Qin's face darkened, Han Fei hurriedly ran to the fields. Oh, I see, sorry, I'm going to find a place to sleep. The old man scrunched his face. Sleep, which cultivator have you seen sleeping? Then I'm going to cultivate in seclusion. The old man scolded, FCK off. Why do you, an insignificant fisher, need to cultivate in seclusion? After Han Fei slipped away, Zhang Qin said with a smile, Grandpa, you seem to get along well with this guy. The old man said grumpily, Get along well with him. He is so much younger than me. If it weren't for the liquor and delicious barbecue he brings me, I would have thrown him out. Zhang Qin smiled. If you don't want him, why not give him to me? I think he might also be talented in becoming a soul warrior. No way. How can I let a born spirit gatherer become a soul warrior? Do you think I'm an idiot? Don't even think about it. Zhang Qin chuckled. Then you've gotta be careful. The village head is already arranging some students to study in the town. Han Fei offended the tigers. Although Tang Jie left the tigers to Han Fei as a whetstone, the village leader doesn't know it. He still believes that Han Fei is just relying on Tang Jie, so you must be careful. Otherwise, the village leader will bring him into town. The old man waved his hand. Yeah, I see. The next day, when the old man got up, he suddenly found Han Fei squatting beside his bed. Cough, you little brat, what are you doing here? Don't you know you will scare me squatting beside me while I'm sleeping? Didn't you say that cultivators don't need to sleep? How dare you talk back? Just stand here. It didn't take long for the old man to come out of the house and throw a jade slip to Han Fei. Take it, I will give you half a month to learn the contents in this jade slip by heart. Han Fei didn't know what was in the jade slip. When he took it out and read it over, his face turned purple. What the hell? This jade slip has recorded hundreds of thousands of different plants. It will take me half a lifetime to learn them by heart. Seeing Han Fei's expression, the old man laughed smugly. Haha, do you know how long it took me to memorize these contents? Only 10 days. I've given you more than enough time. Just then, Zhang Qin happened to walk past to go to work. When she heard the old man's words, she rolled her eyes and walked away. She still remembered when the old man gave this book to her. He said he wanted her to learn its contents by heart in 3 years and emphasized that he only used 1 year to memorize them. Now 1 year was changed to 10 days. She really didn't want to admit this childish old man was her grandfather. Han Fei felt like he was going crazy. He wondered if it was too late for him to run away. He came here just because he had long guessed that this old man might be a recluse big shot, so he came here to see if he could ride on his coattails, but look what he was required to do. Why do I have to hit the books even in this world? Watching Han Fei walk away desperately with the jade slip, the old man was cheerful. Haha, well aren't you a genius? Just hit the books. In a corner, Han Fei opened the jade slip reluctantly, and then he was stunned. Incomplete. A complete collection of spiritual plants in the infinite ocean. A complete collection of spiritual plants handed down from ancient times. Since time has gone by, it is now incomplete and takes 1000 points of spiritual energy to get the completed version. Han Fei widened his eyes. Are you kidding me? Can this book also be upgraded? Haha, it only needs 1000 points of spiritual energy. Oh, right, it's not a cultivation technique, so it doesn't require as much spiritual energy. Well, I shouldn't perform too well. Since the old man memorized this book in 10 days, maybe I should do it in half a day. Han Fei shook his head. No, that's too cruel for the old man. What about 1 day? Yes, 1 day is long enough, or else I'll have to find ways to kill time. Okay, I'll memorize it in 1 day. The next morning, dawn was just breaking. Zhang Qin went out to go to work as usual. The old man was sleeping as usual. Han Fei squatted beside the old man's bed as usual. When the old man woke up, he scolded, You damn brat, I told you not to do this again. Were you deaf? Grandpa, I've memorized the contents of this book. What do you mean? Do you mean you've memorized the contents of the Encyclopedia of Spiritual Plants? Zhang Qin retracted her foot that had just stepped out of the door and looked stunned. Are you serious? Are you a monster? The old man shouted, don't lie to me. It's only been a day. I'm not lying. I'm gifted with an extraordinary memory. The old man just wanted to slap him. Damn you. Damn your extraordinary memory. I said 10 days. Why did you do it in a single day? I would have felt better if you could accomplish it in 9 days. But on the surface, the old man just said calmly, well, let me test you. Triple leaf purple night flower, tell me about it. Han Fei answered fluently, 3-leaf purple night flower, a spiritual plant that is good at ensnaring prey and grows on the bottom of the sea. It usually coexists with triple-head purple night fish. But when any fish wants to eat it, triple-head purple night fish will swallow it in one bite. Triple-leaf purple night flower can ingest the essence from the heads of triple-head purple night fish, so if it's used to refine medicine, it can attract spiritual energy of the outside world and increase the success rate by 30% when a fishing master makes the breakthrough to become a great fishing master. Zhang Qin was dumbfounded and the old man was still struggling. Then tell me about qianqiao fruit. Han Fei recited, qianqiao fruit is usually born in sea anemone bushes in the fisheries above level 2. When anemones eat too much, the indigestible substances produced by them will be excreted in one place, and as time goes by, qianqiao fruit will be produced there, but this plant contains highly toxic substances, and ordinary people may vomit blood and die if touching it. However, if it's taken together with coral fruit, its toxicity will be assimilated. It can be used to build up a body immunity to poison. The old man asked 7 or 8 questions in a row and Han Fei answered fluently at a stretch, which almost drove the old man crazy. Both he and Zhang Qin were thinking, shouldn't this guy be taken to the city? Why did the stupid Fang Zi fail to find out about this boy's talents? Zhang Qin left with shining eyes. The old man didn't continue with the test. He had a feeling that if he went on, he might die in shock and he didn't want to die that way. So the old man simply said to Han Fei, go dig the ground. Chapter 68 Beating the Village Leader. Chapter 68 Beating the Village Leader. Han Fei's face turned purple. I can cheat in reciting books, but how can I cheat in digging? Of course, digging the ground wasn't its literal meaning. Han Fei needed to weed the thousands of acres of land in the plantation first, which was a ponderous job. Although he was a cultivator, it still took him 3 days to do this job and another 3 days to turn the soil for arable land. 7 days later, Han Fei asked, Grandpa, so I should start tilling the land now? The old man replied, no, it's not time yet. Since you've learned the Encyclopedia of Spiritual Plants by heart, trim all the spiritual plants in the plantation first. What? Han Fei almost cried. Grandpa, you can't bully me like this. Will trimming the spiritual plants help my cultivation? The old man smiled. Sure, you need to feel the natural beauty of spiritual plants intuitively so that you'll have a good mood for tilling the land. Han Fei thought to himself, I don't know if spiritual plants are beautiful or not. What I know is that I'm in a bad mood. Do you know how much spare time I sacrificed to till the land? Now you want me to prune flowers and plants? Are you kidding me? 10 days after Han Fei learned spirit concentration art, he finally started to till the land. It didn't matter what kinds of spiritual plants grew. What mattered was the effect of spirit concentration art on the growth of plants after they were planted. Han Fei planted a field of roses, a field of garlic, and a field of strawberries as a test. He had planned to grow wheat or rice, but he didn't find them, so he had to give up. Han Fei could apply spirit gathering art very well now. After sending spiritual points drifting outside into the land, he was faced with another problem: how to apply spirit gathering art over all the fields. The old man didn't give him any hints. Han Fei's first idea was to send a cloud of spiritual energy over the land, but the spiritual energy exploded and blew a big hole in the ground. But this time, the old man didn't laugh. In fact, Han Fei's logic was correct and even very precise, which showed that he was really a genius. Han Fei also found that although a hole was blown up in the ground, there were spiritual plants sprouting in places that hadn't been bombarded. I've got it. The spiritual energy explosion originated from the non-dead corner explosion from a central point. If I can control the spiritual energy to spread only laterally, it won't explode. After dozens of experiments and explosions, Han Fei finally managed to control the spiritual energy, so tilling land could actually improve his ability to control spiritual energy, which was really a useful experience for him. One day, Han Fei had gained some experience with spiritual energy explosions and was about to try it again when the village leader suddenly came to the plantation. As soon as the village leader came in, he saw the old man drinking and eating barbecue. He sniffed and ignored the old man, calling straight to Han Fei standing in the ground. Han Fei, come here. Han Fei ran over covered with mud. Leader, what can I do for you? The village leader is the leader of the Heavenly Water Village. If it weren't for the fishing trial, he wouldn't have even remembered me. Why has he come to me here? The village leader said, Han Fei, our village wants to select some outstanding students to study in the town where there are better schools. Although the selected student can only be auditors temporarily, it's still a great chance. I specially reserved a place for you. Hurry up, go back home to pack and get ready for setting off. Han Fei scratched his head, glanced back at the land he hadn't finished tilling and thought about it. What can auditors learn? The village leader laughed. The schools in the town are not the same as those in the village. That's where elites stay. You just have to stay there for 3 years and then you can learn about the 5 major professions or even get started. Do you know what the 5 major professions are? Let me tell you. Han Fei looked blank. He pointed a finger at the village leader and a string of spiritual energy was sent into his body. Like this. The village leader. The village leader looked at Han Fei stunned and then looked at the old man whose mouth was slightly curved in a smile. He stuttered, Spirit gatherer. Han Fei said seriously, Leader, if I have to be in the town for 3 years just to learn about the 5 major professions, then I'd rather not go. Recently, I find farming particularly interesting and I plan to continue to study in the Heavenly Water Village. When I go to the town one day, I'll startle them with what I'm capable of. The village leader. Study. Do you mean farming? The old man on the side suddenly pounded the table and jumped to his feet, throwing a prawn at the face of the village leader. What's wrong with farming? Do you have a problem with farming? The village head frowned. Old Zhang, you gotta show me some respect. The chance to go to town is something that many young people are desperate for. Han Fei has a great gift for being a spirit gatherer. How can you just keep him here farming? What else can your spiritual fruits be used for, besides being able to make some barbecue? Quote. The old man's face darkened. Do you despise planting spiritual fruits? Big-headed Zhao, you ignorant idiot. The Tao of spiritual fruits planting will bring you lifelong benefits. That'll be a waste of his time to be an auditor in the town for 3 years. Was your head hit by an iron-head fish? The village leader yelled. Don't call me idiot, you idiot. The Tao of spiritual fruits planting. Why didn't I see you grow a single piece of spirit fruit? If it weren't for the fact that every hanging island needs someone to study spiritual fruit, I would have flattened your plantation. The old man immediately threw a small white fish at him. Flatten my plantation? Yes, in your dreams. I'd like to see how you can flatten my plantation. Dare you shovel a piece of soil? Let me show you whether I dare or not. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Han Fei couldn't get a word in as the 2 old men were too irritable. The quarrel between them soon escalated into a fight. They were getting angrier and angrier. As the village leader burst into a roar, his body suddenly bulged with muscles and he threw a punch at the old man. Han Fei was dumbfounded and couldn't believe what he saw. Leader, didn't you always tell us to be kind and get along with others? The old man didn't flinch at all. Casting a sardonic glance at the village leader, he reached out and grabbed in the air, and then a water shield appeared in front of him. Bam! The water shield exploded and the 2 old men were both sprinkled with water all over. The village leader kept punching, forming a dragon shadow in the air. A fierce battle was imminent. The old man stood still, summoning a lot of water from the void, which turned into a chain and then into a whip. Han Fei was dumbfounded. That's awesome. The old man looks so cool. He can actually grab anything out of the air as he wants. How eye-opening. Han Fei squatted on the ground not far away, watching the 2 of them fight. The village leader roared, "Old Zhang, do you really think you can beat me?" Buzz. A cloud of spiritual energy appeared on the village leader's fist. Han Fei shivered when he saw the village leader initiate a spiritual energy explosion, which was an extremely terrifying force. But the old man just sneered, "You wanna play spiritual energy with me? Are you still in your dream?" He reached out and grabbed at the mass of spiritual energy, which immediately diffused and broke into spiritual points. After dozens of seconds, with a whoosh, the village leader was thrown out of the plantation. The old man pointed at the village leader and cursed, "Big-headed Zhao, who do you think you are? If you dare to set your foot on my plantation again, I'll beat the hell out of you." The village leader was very angry. "You damn farmer, I can't even communicate with you. Han Fei, I've asked you to go to town for your own good. Since you have already started as a spiritual gatherer, you don't have to be an auditor. Besides, although Li Ju was almost disabled, it is possible for him to recover in advance. Think it over for yourself." Han Fei waved his hand in embarrassment. "Li Ju, it's only been half a month and Li Ju has shown signs of recovery." He had thought that there was still a lot of time left for him. Now being reminded by the village leader, he realized that he wouldn't be able to spend all his time and effort on farming. Just now, Old Zhang showed great power in the battle when he grabbed water from the void and transformed it into any weapon he wanted. Was it a different skill of a spirit gatherer? If this was the case, a spirit gatherer was powerful indeed. He wanted to learn this skill. Old Zhang turned his head, watching Han Fei's expression changing, and asked grumpily, "Did you change your mind?" Han Fei shook his head. "No, but I think I have to take a few days off, Grandpa." "Oh, for what?" "I've felt signs of a breakthrough recently and I want to prepare for my breakthrough." Cough, cough. Old Zhang was speechless. "Didn't you just make a breakthrough not long ago? Why are you going to make another breakthrough so soon? Is a breakthrough as simple as eating and drinking for you?" Chapter 69 He Xiao Yu, also leaving. Chapter 69. He Xiao Yu, also leaving. 2. The Tigers. "Father, I heard that Han Fei was doing odd jobs in the plantation of the Heavenly Water Village." "Ha! Short-sighted bastard. Tang Jie has left now, no one knows whether he'll come back or not. Father, if we don't get rid of Han Fei now, we won't have another chance if he goes to town." A vicious gleam flickered in Li Hu's eyes. He had almost lost all of his force because of Han Fei. Although his force had restored by 70% or 80%, it would still take him at least a few months more to fully recover. Han Fei was the culprit of his sufferings. He certainly wouldn't let him off. Li Ju was also full of hatred. Because of Tang Jie, his strength had diminished by more than half. Now, even though he took various kinds of spiritual drugs every day, his injury hadn't recovered yet. Li Ju gnashed his teeth. "Humph. Tang Jie wanted me to make the tigers Han Fei's whetstone, but does Han Fei deserve it? How is a piece of junk, whose spiritual beast is a spirit-swallowing fish, worthy of treating me as a whetstone?" Li Ju mused and said, "Bear with him for a few more days. The tigers haven't recovered from this setback and are now outshone by the Wang family. If it weren't for the fact that killing is not allowed on the floating island, I am afraid I might have been killed by them. Therefore, I must not leave the floating island before I fully recover, so you'll be in charge of hunting Han Fei." Li Hu said, "Father, I see. Please wait a few more days. When I recover, I'll watch for a proper moment to kill Han Fei at sea with our tiger brothers." Han Fei had yet again gone to the most delicious barbecue stall in the world. Li Gang asked, "Young master, are you bored again?" Han Fei rolled his eyes. "Can't I come if I'm not bored?" Li Gang grinned. "You can come anytime." Li Gang and Xiao Hong once discussed privately why Han Fei always came here to process the fish, as Li Gang thought Han Fei must have some indescribable feelings for these fish. Han Fei summoned the twin yin-yang spirit-swallowing fishes. The two little guys should start to upgrade. Before Han Fei started to feed them, however, he saw Little White spit out a cloud of spiritual energy. Han Fei looked around and then quickly drew the spiritual energy to his fingertips. But as soon as the cloud of spiritual energy came into contact with him, he widened his eyes. What pure spiritual energy! Han Fei felt comfortable all over, though this small cloud of spiritual energy was only 500 points. Han Fei wondered if there was something wrong with the two little fishes as they spat out spiritual energy. He immediately examined them. Spiritual beast. Less than name greater than twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish. Less than introduction greater than they're the descendants of the mysterious primitive yin-yang sky swallowing fish. The black and white fish accompany each other. The white fish is docile, whereas the black one is cruel. They are symbiotic. As long as one lives, the other won't die. Less than level greater than 1. Less than quality greater than mysterious. Less than spiritual energy greater than 0 points. Less than food greater than omnivorous. They can swallow everything. Less than note greater than the black fish is not visible. Except for the owner, only people with naturally born yin-yang divine eyes can see it. What? The stored 1,000 points of spiritual energy disappeared. Han Fei's heart shivered. Did the two little guys simply purify the spiritual energy? Was the purified spiritual energy better? Of course. For an analogy, within the tolerance range, the higher the oxygen concentration, the better. In the era of the Big Bang, mosquitoes could be the size of a human fist, and all marine life, land life, and plants, were gigantic. In short, if Han Fei had been ingesting this high-purity spiritual energy, it could help broaden his meridians and strengthen his bones and flesh. The purer the spiritual energy he absorbed, the stronger his combat power would be. Wow, great. Han Fei was overjoyed, and Li Gang and Little Red glanced back at him from time to time, wondering what was wrong with this young master who sometimes seemed to be smart but also sometimes looked like a fool. Han Fei fed Little White 1,000 points of spiritual energy once again, but the latter made no breakthrough, so he fed him another 500 points. This time, Little White refused to eat it. He knew that he was already full. So Han Fei started absorbing spiritual energy, but he still felt it was too slow, and he tried to work out other ways to earn spiritual energy. Hey gang, young master, what's up? Put ads that the barbecue stall will be selling all products half price within the next 3 days. Li Gang was confused. Huh, why on sale again? Han Fei said impatiently, just do it. This is the way of doing business. You don't understand. As he expected, no sooner than the discount ads were released, the number of customers had almost doubled. Han Fei gained a total of 33,200 points of spiritual energy, plus the 41,806 points that he already had, which was enough for him to upgrade his spiritual heritage. Upgrade. With a swish, 20,000 points of spiritual energy were gone, but Han Fei didn't grudge at all. Instead, he was beaming with a smile. No wonder the upgrade this time required 20,000 points of spiritual energy. With this breakthrough, his spiritual heritage was upgraded to level 3 low quality, which raised his strength by a whole level. But soon Han Fei's face turned green when he found out it would take 100,000 points to make the next upgrade. He suddenly had an impulse to curse. 100,000 points per each improvement in quality. Wouldn't it mean that if he wanted to upgrade the level 3 spiritual heritage to level 4, he would have to spend 400,000 points of spiritual energy? This will be too slow. Even if I give discounts to customers of the barbecue stall every day, it will still take 40 to 50 days, he thought to himself. Han Fei wondered if he could talk to old Zhong and open some more barbecue stalls on the floating island. But then he dropped the idea, because he couldn't be in several places at once, so it wouldn't get him more spiritual energy to open more barbecue stalls. Forget it. Let me raise my upper limit of spiritual energy first. Han Fei was now a fisher at the peak of level 8. Although he could break through to level 9 at any time, he had to lay a solid foundation first. Anyway, he preferred quality over speed. 5 days later, Han Fei lay on the ground like a dead dog. Although he was already familiar with the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing, he still felt extremely tired every time he practiced it. If it weren't for the fact that it worked quite well, he would have given up on it long ago. Han Fei looked at the data. Less than owner greater than, Han Fei. Less than level greater than, 8 advanced fisher. Less than spiritual energy greater than, 19,203, 379. Less than spiritual heritage greater than, level 3, low quality upgradable. Less than spiritual beast greater than, twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fishes. Less than weapon greater than. Purple bamboo rod. Less than main art greater than. Void fishing, Chapter 1. Hook kiss mortal level, divine quality. Han Fei was very satisfied with the data. After the comprehensive cultivation of this time, he felt stronger. If he met Li Hu again, he would be able to knock him down easily. An ordinary level 8 fisher would only have 160 points of basic spiritual energy in the beginning. Even after repeated tempering, his spiritual energy would be no more than 200 points or so. He had been several times stronger than ordinary level 8 fishers. Since I've got so many days off, why not go to sea? Han Fei didn't dare to use the less than 20,000 points of spiritual energy he had left. He found that spiritual energy soon ran out. When he broke through to level 8, he used more than 10,000 points of spiritual energy. But if he wanted to reach level 9, he would need at least 20,000 spiritual points. The barbecue stall. Han Fei said, "Hey gang, don't forget to deliver liquor and barbecue to Grandpa Zhong. I'm going to sea for a few days." Li Gang was surprised. "How many days?" "Young master, the sea is dangerous." "I know. Don't worry. Oh, by the way, young master, He Xiaoyu came to you 2 days ago. I said you were cultivating and she said that when you were done cultivating, go find her." Han Fei wondered. He Xiaoyu went out with her father to upgrade her spiritual beast. Did she come back so soon? Han Fei had always felt that upgrading a spiritual beast was not a simple matter, but it seemed that she had succeeded to some degree. "Okay, I see. At He Xiaoyu's home, Han Fei just arrived at the door of her house and happened to meet He Mingtang, who was going out. Seeing Han Fei, He Mingtang questioned, "Hi, Han Fei. I heard that you rejected the village leader. Young man, you should seize the opportunity. Not everyone can go to the town. Besides, I heard that Li Hu had recovered and seems to have even made a breakthrough, so be careful." Han Fei grinned. "Don't worry, Mr. He. I'll protect myself." He Mingtang nodded. "Good. Glad to hear that. Xiaoyu has just finished cultivating. You can go straight in." "Okay. Take care, Mr. He. Don't take my daughter to fool around with you. And, don't touch her." "Okay, now you can go in," He Mingtang said abruptly, turning round after taking 2 steps. Han Fei was speechless. "Why do you think I'd be interested in a 12-year-old girl? I am not a pedophile." He entered the door, only to see a middle-aged woman who asked as soon as she saw him, "Are you Han Fei?" "Yes, auntie. Come on in, I just made dinner. Xiaoyu is having dinner. Let's have dinner together." When Han Fei saw He Xiaoyu, the girl was holding a skewer of barbecue in her hand and eating it with an apparent appetite. Han Fei asked, "How can you eat barbecue every day? Don't you think it's too greasy? I heard that greasy food will make you fat." He Xiaoyu rolled her eyes. "No, as long as you don't eat too much." Han Fei stared at the dozens of skewers on the table. "You called this, not too much?" He Xiaoyu was offended. "Shut up. You know what, I'm going to the town. Are you going too?" Chapter 70 Grumpy Little Black. Chapter 70. Grumpy Little Black. Han Fei asked her, to be an auditor. Han Fei grunted. "I enjoy my life in the Heavenly Water Village. My life here is stress-free and my strength is getting better and better. I even have a feeling that here, I am going to reach the peak of life. I don't want to go to the town school at all." He Xiaoyu was shocked. "No, I'm going to be a full-time student, not an auditor." Han Fei. "Really? So I can only be an auditor, whereas He Xiaoyu will be a full-time student? Village leader, you old bastard. Fortunately, I didn't listen to you. Then go. Perhaps you can cover me when I get to the town." He Xiaoyu chuckled. "Why not go with me? I heard that the students of the town school are the most talented selected from all the villages. Technically, only those with level 2, good quality spiritual heritage or above are eligible to enter the school, but there are exceptions, such as you, who have unusual physical strength." Han Fei shook his head. "I'm not going there," He Xiaoyu said, "but you can learn something useful. Do you know the 5 major professions?" Han Fei exclaimed in his heart, "Oh, not this again. Did you forget the spirit gathering art Fang Zi gave me? I can cultivate with that too. Maybe you won't learn as much in school as I self-taught myself." He Xiaoyu pouted. Bah, you're bragging. It is said that even the best genius in town has to learn for several years. Well, forget it. Have you heard that Li Hu has recovered and even made a breakthrough? Han Fei replied, yes. Your father told me, but it doesn't matter. Li Hu is like a salted fish. Since he has fallen down, he can no longer get up. But there are many strong men in the tigers. And your spiritual beast has no combat power. Once those people fuse with their spiritual beasts, you will hardly be able to defend against their attacks. Han Fei was confused. Fuse with their spiritual beasts. Don't tell me that you haven't started cultivating your spiritual beast yet. He Xiaoyu was shocked. Is that urgent? He Xiaoyu said anxiously, sure. Almost everyone will have their strength rise after they get their spiritual beast. The stronger your spiritual beast is, the stronger you will be after fusing with it. Han Fei was interested. Will my cultivating speed increase dramatically after I fuse with my spiritual beast? Doesn't a spirit-swallowing fish like swallowing spirit best? Quote. Then he smiled. Little girl, when are you going to the town? He Xiaoyu was annoyed and questioned, why do you call me that? I'm older than you. But you look much younger than me. But forget it. It's not bad staying in the heavenly village. At least you won't meet so many geniuses here. Your strength is not weak. Maybe we can meet at the level 1 fishery after we become fishing masters. Han Fei asked, are the town and villages using the same level 1 fishery? He Xiaoyu nodded. Yes, all the villages use the same one. At this time, He Xiaoyu's mother brought fish soup and Han Fei tasted it. In addition to the rich umami taste it had, there was nothing special about the soup. He Xiaoyu's mother joined the conversation. Lad, you shall work hard. When you become a fishing master, your father will not object to your marrying Xiaoyu. Hu, cough, cough. He Xiaoyu's face instantly turned red. Mother, what are you talking about? We're just friends. I'm going to cultivate. He Xiaoyu clattered upstairs and Han Fei embarrassedly said to her mother, Auntie, I think I have to go too. He Xiaoyu's mother was warm with her response. Okay, no rush. Cultivation goes first. Xiaoyu is leaving the village in 2 days. The village leader will send her to the town. Han Fei, Xiaoyu's father said that you could actually go too. Auntie, different people have different aspirations. I still have a lot of things to do in the Heavenly Water Village. I'll go to town one day, but not now. After leaving He Xiaoyu's house, Han Fei went straight to his house. The white fishing boat Fang Zi gave to him remained tied to the edge of the cliff next to his house. Han Fei jumped onto it and sailed straight to the sea. The tigers not long after Han Fei left. Young master, Han Fei has gone to sea. Li Hu frowned. Going to the sea at night. He pondered. Let Uncle Wolf deal with him. A dark night, a killing night. How dare he, a minor fisher, go to the sea at night? He is simply courting death. Yes, young master. Gee, the boat used by city people is really different, so fast and stable. With this boat, I don't have to go to the port to rent one, which was much more worthwhile than a piece of spiritual fruit. Coming to the sea again, Han Fei pondered, spirit-swallowing fish are from level 1 fisheries. If they are put in a common fishery, would there be no fish able to kill them? He Xiaoyu once said that only very special creatures or spiritual beasts could kill spiritual beasts. With a thought from Han Fei, Little Black and Little White appeared. Seeing the endless sea, even without instruction from Han Fei, Little Black jumped straight into the seawater. Han Fei called to him, Little Black, why are you in such a hurry? Come out of the sea. However, Little Black ignored Han Fei, and Little White also jumped into the sea. The two small fishes, one black and one white, jumped out of the sea and then dove back into the water, seeming to be playing. Han Fei covered his face helplessly. Most people have their spiritual beasts as fighting pets, whereas mine are two cute pets. Something suddenly drew his attention. A blade fish jumped out of the sea and rushed straight to Little White. Little White, watch out. With a twinkle and swish, Xiao Bai dove into the seawater, leaving a white flash. In the blink of an eye, he had swum behind the blade fish and seemed to be curiously observing this big fish. But Little Black was not so curious. He thought to himself, you want to eat Little White. Then I will eat you first." Then Han Fei saw something that shocked him. Little Black rushed up, and as he kept revolving around the blade fish, the latter became a fishbone. "Wow, so strong. You, a level 1 small fish, ate a blade fish leaving only the bones." The water glittered like frost and the fin blade of the blade fish fell into the water. Han Fei was about to get the blade out of water when he saw Little Black rush up again and bite at the blade. Han Fei's jaw almost dropped. What did he just see? Little Black actually ate a blade. "Come here, Xiao He." Little Black jumped out of the water and swam around Han Fei in the air. Han Fei found that this little guy was not hurt at all. "That's a blade, not fish meat. Don't your teeth hurt when eating it?" However, Xiao He didn't seem to understand what Han Fei was saying, or he didn't even give a damn. He jumped back into the water. Because Little Black was his spiritual beast, Han Fei could sense that Xiao He was still eating. What was he eating? He had no idea, but he found that his spiritual energy was increasing. "Oh, directly increasing my spiritual energy." When Han Fei saw the 3 moons rising in the sky, he knew it was almost time. He immediately called Little Black and Little White back, only allowing them to wander around him. Han Fei sat with his legs crossed and began to cultivate, and suddenly, the spiritual energy around him surged. There seemed to be rolling spiritual energy wherever the bright moonlight fell. As Han Fei was cultivating, the sea around him violently stirred and a large number of fishes emerged and writhed from time to time. As in the past, the moment when spiritual energy was present, no fish fought one another, not even the cruelest snakebelt. They were immersed in absorbing the essence of this world as if on a pilgrimage. Little Black, who was agitated and wanted to jump into the sea again, was also quiet at this moment. It stayed suspended in the air and slowly revolved around Han Fei. The black and white spots respectively on the 2 fishes' heads were shining and seemed to be breathing. As time went by, however, Han Fei felt that the spiritual energy he absorbed was getting less and less. He opened his eyes and found that the calabash was flashing. Little Black and Little White were absorbing spiritual energy, so were the fishes in the sea. Han Fei gave a wry smile. "So the spiritual energy I attracted in cultivation was mostly absorbed by you guys. But fine, anyway, I still grew stronger." After more than an hour, the sea surface gradually began to stir. Some fish began to flop about and a white fish jumped on board, almost hitting Han Fei. But at the moment the white fish jumped up, Little Black rushed over and threw it into the sea after a few bites. Soon, there were more and more fish starting to flop around, mostly just yellow fish and white fish. Fishes like blade fish didn't jump on board though. Little Black was relatively grumpy. He seemed to realize that his owner was cultivating, so any fish who dared to approach the deck was killed by it. As he was busy biting and chewing, suddenly both Little Black and Little White's body flashed and they actually upgraded. All of a sudden, Han Fei felt Xiao Bai bumping on his body. He turned his head, only to see that a ship shadow suddenly appeared in the distance. "There are people at sea at this time. Are they coming for me?" Chapter 71 Fighting a Fishing Master. Chapter 71 Fighting a Fishing Master. Han Fei frowned. The first idea coming to his mind was that he was followed, but he didn't stop cultivating. "Well, if I stop cultivating at this time, the sea would go violent." It was for this reason that he asked Fang Zi for this high-end fishing boat, but to his dismay, there was always someone trying to disturb him. Li Lang, one of the founders of the Tigers, a very strong man, was about to break through to be an intermediate fishing master. He was in the top 5 of the Tigers in strength. When he was assigned this task, he was full of disdain and even assured Li Hu that he would slash Han Fei's head off within 2 hours. He felt that it was a little insulting to ask him to kill an insignificant fisher. However, he knew that this guy almost had leader and young master killed, so he was very eager to kill this guy to get the credit. At this moment, Li Lang was only 500 meters away from Han Fei's fishing boat. He figured that he was too busy cultivating and didn't notice him. The spiritual energy here seems to be more intense than other places. Is that guy getting a chance to cultivate? When Li Lang was 300 meters away from Han Fei, he heard a flapping sound under the ship, and he took a look at it only to find that many yellow fish and white fish were bumping against the ship. A school of fish. This guy is lucky to meet a school of fish at night. When Li Lang was only less than 100 meters away from Han Fei's white fishing boat, he felt something was wrong. No, it's not a school of fish. The spiritual energy here is exceptionally rich. This guy must have won a treasure. No wonder he dare go to sea at night. But I'm afraid your treasure will be mine. I can give your head to young master, but your treasure, ho ho. Swoosh. Just when Li Lang was about to reach Han Fei, he pulled out his fishing rod, planning to hook Han Fei's white fishing boat with his fish hook so as not to let him escape. But before he cast out the fish hook, he saw the white fishing boat darting towards him. Damn it, do you want to die? Li Lang certainly wouldn't think his fishing boat was stronger than the one Fang Zi gave Han Fei. If the two boats collided, the one destroyed must be his fishing boat. Roar. Do you think you can kill me by destroying my boat? You wish. Li Lang retracted the fishing rod, carried it behind his back, and picked up a long rod. This was an iron rod made of iron trees on the seabed, which was at the same level as he Xiaoyu's bamboo rod and Han Fei's purple bamboo rod that was not yet refined. Ah, Li Lang was about to jump onto Han Fei's ship, but what did he see in the next second? The sea was roaring and rolling and hundreds of thousands of fish were flying out of the sea. He saw countless snakebelts, blade fish, green turtles, and even 2 tentacle lobsters. Li Lang's face changed dramatically. Damn it, is this a small fish tide? A fishing master as he was not invincible. He might be very strong in a one-on-one fight, not a single fish here could beat him, but there were too many of them. The fishes flopped violently and jumped out of the water in succession. Han Fei hid into the cabin as soon as he saw the fishes jumping up, leaving his boat drifting by itself. Bang! The bow of Li Lang's fishing boat was knocked askew and sawdust flew around. The fishes couldn't find Han Fei, so they all swarmed up at Li Lang. At this time, Li Lang had no time to deal with Han Fei and could only clench the rod in his hands. Han Fei steered the fishing boat a bit away as he watched. Huh, this man is so strong. Is he a fishing master? Han Fei saw Li Lang waving his hand and he easily broke a green turtle, which flew away with a ruckus. 5 or 6 big blade fish darted their fin blades at him, but Li Lang immediately blocked their attacks and hit 2 of them hard with his rod. Humph! Li Lang suddenly groaned. He was hit by a blade fish that had lost its fin. This would not have hurt him, but a tentacle lobster climbed up behind him and whipped him hard on the back with its tentacle at the same time. Go to hell! The long rod in Li Liang's hand flashed and he dented the lobster's head with a blow of his rod. Wow, he is really a worthy fishing master. Look how observant and alert he is in the fight. But how many fishes can he beat alone? Han Fei wondered. Li Lang was in trouble at the moment. If the fishes that jumped up were all swordfish and tentacle lobsters, he was confident that he could easily kill them. But what he faced up with was hundreds of thousands of white fish and yellow fish who madly darted at him. It didn't make sense to beat these fishes because they couldn't wound him anyway. But if he didn't get rid of them, his sight was completely blocked. He couldn't see anything but white fish and yellow fish. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been whipped by a tentacle lobster. Li Lang yelled angrily, Han Fei, you insidious coward. Did you use your treasure to cause this fish tide? Do you know how many people will chase after you if I escape? Then escape. Show me how you can escape with the bow of your boat wrecked. You coward, just keep hiding in your cabin. As Li Lang's iron rod whistled through the air, countless white fish, yellow fish, and green turtles were sent flying. Ouch! A fin blade flew across Li Lang's chest and his chest was immediately dripping with blood. When he finally jumped from his ship to Han Fei's, he had 4 blades in his body, and the wound on his back was still burning. In addition, his face was also swollen from bumping into a green turtle. Little Black, bite him. The moment Li Lang set foot on Han Fei's fishing boat, Han Fei immediately ordered Little Black to attack Li Lang. Oh, caught off guard, Li Lang felt that his calf was bitten by something that ripped a bloody piece of flesh off his leg. He tried to find the thing that bit him, but there were only white fish and yellow fish under his feet. He thought it was a coincidence, but when he took a step forward, he felt that his forearm was bitten too, and a piece of flesh was bitten off. What the hell is that? Li Lang hurriedly refilled his body with spiritual energy, and at the moment when his body was flooded with spiritual energy, with a thought from Han Fei, Little Black quickly came back to his owner. Han Fei sneered. Now it's time. The fish cabin was knocked open instantly. Han Fei struck Li Lang with his purple bamboo rod. With a flash from purple bamboo rod, Han Fei shouted, "Explode!" Bam! A turbulent airwave erupted between them, throwing hundreds of fish away. Li Lang was knocked back 3 paces by the attack. His arms were numb and he was shocked. That's not right. Han Fei's strength is not right. Isn't Han Fei only a level 7 fisher? Liar. He is clearly already a fishing master. Explode. Li Lang had hardly stabilized his body when Han Fei hit him with the rod again. Bam! Li Lang felt that as his shoulders were hit hard, his blood was rolling and the spiritual energy in his body finally exploded. After taking 2 consecutive spiritual energy explosion attacks, he could hardly stand. Han Fei sneered. You want to kill me? I will drain your spiritual energy first. Although Li Ju was seriously wounded, he still clenched his fishing rod and he lashed at Han Fei with it. Han Fei was sent flying through the air and bumped into a passing green turtle. Fortunately, he was not wounded and in the blink of an eye, he filled his body with spiritual energy again. Han Fei grinned. Brother, come and kill me. Li Lang stared at him ferociously, then quickly grabbed a spirit refilling pill and swallowed it. However, as soon as he threw the spirit refilling pill into his mouth, his belly was suddenly bitten by something twice and a bloody hunk of flesh was bitten off. Damn, what the FCK was that? Li Lang hurriedly refilled his body with spiritual energy again and tightly covered the wound on his belly with his clothes to stop the blood from flowing out. What the heck is that? He didn't even know what bit him. However, when he had just dressed his wound, he saw Han Fei sneering and his rod flash again. Is he going to give him another spiritual energy explosion attack? Fuse. Just when Han Fei's rod was about to hit Li Lang again, Li Lang roared, and instantly, a shadow covered Li Lang's body. No sooner than purple bamboo rod hit Li Lang again, Han Fei's shoulder had a sharp pain and seemed to be pierced by something. Phew, Li Lang spurted blood. Even if he had fused with his spiritual beast, half of his body still went numb and his shoulders were dented when he was hit by Han Fei. Han Fei was knocked back and quickly looked to his left shoulder, only to find that blood was streaming out of his shoulder as if penetrated by a sword. Li Lang seems to have become stronger. Bastard, do you know that my spiritual beast is a swordfish, the most aggressive fish from level 1 fisheries? I'm gonna kill you. Chapter 72 Desire to Kill. Chapter 72 Desire to Kill. Han Fei blinked, jumped back quickly to block a fin blade darting at him with his rod, and then caught the blade fish to throw it at Li Lang. Li Lang easily smashed the blade fish, but the moment he smashed it, his palm was pierced. He turned his head to look, only to find that it was not a blade fish but a palm-sized knife. It was one of the small flying knives Han Fei made with a blade fish's fins. When he was first engaged in refining, he laughed at himself for making rubbish, but now it seemed that he could use them as hidden weapons. Li Lang was shocked. This bastard had so many means. He hadn't even figured out what this guy released to bite him yet and was injured by his flying knife again. Before Li Lang came back from the shock, he saw Han Fei reach out, grab something from the air, and throw it over. He thought it was another knife. But the next second he found that there was nothing at all. Explode. It turned out to be another spiritual energy explosion attack. Li Lang hurriedly held his stick to block it, shocked and angry. Is this guy's spiritual energy endless? Even if he could gain spiritual energy by drinking spirit swallowing fish soup, there was no damn soup here for him to drink. Where did he get so much spiritual energy? Boom. Hundreds of fish were sent flying through the air by the explosion, and a tentacle lobster that had just climbed halfway onto the boat was shaken off, knocked into the water. Han Fei felt that his body was pierced again. This time it was his right hand. He quickly backed away and looked at his right hand where a long cut appeared. Little Black, bite him. Han Fei gritted his teeth. He shattered Li Lang's spiritual energy once again. I don't believe you can keep refilling your body with spiritual energy. Sure enough, the next second, Li Lang was bitten in the back of his neck, and another piece of flesh was bitten off. Li Lang was going crazy. What the heck is it? Once the spiritual energy in his body disappeared, he would be bitten. Enough is enough. Li Lang was forced to refill his body with spiritual energy again. He knew that if he couldn't kill Han Fei this time, he would be doomed. At this moment, on the white fishing boat on the sea, two people, whose bodies were shimmering with spiritual energy, were fighting fiercely and clangs were heard from time to time. Han Fei retreated one step after another, not because his strength was inferior to Li Lang but that Li Lang seemed to be able to emit sword chi that left many cuts on his body. Bam! Being thrown backward, Han Fei hit the rail guard and vomited blood. Very good, do you think only you know how to fuse with your spiritual beast? Han Fei was irritated. He knew that the tigers wanted to kill him and there was a fishing master in the tigers, but he didn't expect the tigers to send a fishing master to ambush him on the sea at night. Even though the sea at night was considered a horrible place and fishing masters were reluctant to come, he had come. And this person was quite strong. If Han Fei guessed right, he may be a junior fishing master before fusing with his swordfish, but after the fusion, he probably became an intermediate fishing master. Little white, little black, fuse with me. It was not difficult for Han Fei to kill his opponent by draining his spiritual energy with spiritual energy explosion attacks, but Li Lang was too close to him and he couldn't resist his sword chi that easily and seriously wounded him. So although Han Fei had not yet tried to fuse with his spiritual beasts, he had to do it now. Even if Little Black and Little White were still at a low level and couldn't boost his strength much, at least they would improve his strength somewhat. The next moment, Han Fei saw the black and white fish appear in front of him, circling around him, and then they entered his body like a Tai Chi pattern. Roar! As soon as Han Fei finished the fusion, Li Lang couldn't help but take a step back. What did he see? At the moment, one of Han Fei's eyes had turned pure white against the dark sky, which meant that Han Fei had one black and one white eye. Li Lang had never seen such a creepy scene and was a little scared. Isn't this guy's spiritual beast just a spirit-swallowing fish? Who the FCK said that to me? I'm gonna kill him. Han Fei felt that he had become a lot stronger and probably had the power of a level 9 fisher, which might be nothing to a fishing master. But at the moment, Han Fei became extremely calm and there was a bloodthirsty desire in his heart. The sight of Li Lang aroused an urge from his heart to bite him. In addition to that, the world in his eyes had changed and Li Lang's movement suddenly slowed down. Li Lang knew that there would be no chance for him to kill Han Fei if he didn't kill him right now. Without any hesitation, he covered his iron rod with the last bit of spiritual energy he had. He didn't think Han Fei could defend himself against the spiritual energy explosion attack of a fishing master. But this time, to his surprise, Han Fei just stood still. When his iron rod was about to hit him, he suddenly twisted his body in a strange angle and dodged his attack. Phew! Li Lang only felt a sharp pain in his chest, and then the strength of his whole body seemed to be fading. The fusion effect gradually dissipated and his strength was gone. Li Lang looked down, only to see a knife in his chest. Han Fei had no expression on his face and looked calm. He looked at Li Lang who was kneeling on the ground and gasping for breath, suddenly opened his mouth and bit at Li Lang's neck. One bite after another, Li Lang died miserably, and his widened eyes were filled with terror. However, Han Fei didn't terminate the fusion. Instead, he carried purple bamboo rod and started to hit the fishes who wanted to jump on board. The tentacle lobster that was shaken off started to climb back on the boat, but a rod hit down, smashing its head. 15 minutes later, the ship had been covered with dead fishes and a struggling look gradually appeared on Han Fei's face. Manate, the fusion. Bam! Han Fei sat down on the deck, breathing heavily, and two small fishes in front of him, black and white, were happily revolving around him in the air. Han Fei threw up violently to the ground. He knew exactly what he had just done. He knew he had just bitten Li Lang to death. But at the moment he killed Li Lang, he felt extremely excited. Both his body and his spirit were in a state of extreme excitement. He wanted more killing and wanted to appreciate the pleasure. That's horrible. What the hell are you, Little Black? Han Fei knew that this was Little Black's masterpiece. This guy didn't like to absorb spiritual energy from the beginning. Whenever he saw a fish, he would rush up to bite it. He was only at level 1 but had already nibbled a swordfish to death. When he fused with him just now, he felt his desire to kill was skyrocketing. Han Fei decided, Unless his life was in danger, he would never fuse with them again. Just now, he felt like he was crazy, yes, like a madman who was crazy and extremely high. Although he knew that his state was not right, he was reluctant to terminate the fusion. After gasping for quite a while, Han Fei kicked Li Lang, who was already dead, rummaged through his person, and found nothing but a rod. He looked at it and thought, not bad. It was not destroyed when hit by my purple bamboo rod, so it should be a weapon of the same level as purple bamboo rod. Tossing Li Lang's body into the sea, Han Fei thoroughly cleaned up the boat. After he absorbed all the spiritual energy, his spiritual energy had exceeded 22,000 points. After a little hesitation, Han Fei chose to break through immediately. Otherwise, if another master about the same level as Li Lang came, he might not be able to defend himself. And if two came, he would definitely die. Little black, little white, guard my side. Watching the two little fishes circling happily around him, Han Fei gave a wry smile. Little guys, do you know you almost drove your owner into madness? Make the breakthrough. Spiritual energy was surging around Han Fei and his momentum was constantly rising. Crack. In a split second, Han Fei accomplished the breakthrough. Of course, he was still far from the peak of level 9, so spiritual energy was still surging. After more than an hour, Han Fei opened his eyes. I was too weak before the breakthrough, but now my strength has increased by thousands of kilograms. Han Fei got up and found that the wounds on his body had begun to scab. Although it was not as fast as his previous recovery speed, it was still fast. He wondered whether it was because of the breakthrough or other reasons. He looked at his data again. Less than owner greater than Han Fei. Less than level greater than 9 advanced fisher. Less than spiritual energy greater than 1023 399. Less than spiritual heritage greater than level 3 low quality upgradable. Less than spiritual beast greater than twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fishes. Less than weapon greater than purple bamboo rod. Less than main art greater than void fishing. Chapter 1. Hook kiss mortal level, divine quality. Chapter 73 Like a fish hopping in the sea. Chapter 73. Like a fish hopping in the sea. Han Fei was relieved to see that he still had 1023 points of spiritual energy left. He had been worried that his spiritual energy was not enough, but now it seemed that it was enough. However, it was certain that the amount of spiritual energy consumed for each breakthrough was increasing. He could be sure that 20,000 points of spiritual energy would not be enough for him to accomplish his next breakthrough, which might require 30,000 or even 40,000 points. He was struggling in his heart whether he should continue to cultivate or to practice the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing. He felt that, however, in this breakthrough, the increase of his upper limit of spiritual energy was not as much as he expected. He seemed to encounter a small bottleneck, so he needed to practice the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing to help himself advance. Well, the tigers won't stop unless I die. This amount of spiritual energy may not be enough. At the same time, the tigers. Young master, Li Lang has been gone for 3 hours. Li Hu waved his hand. Perhaps he hasn't found Han Fei. Even an ordinary fishery covers hundreds of kilometers. It is not easy to find a certain person there. I order all people who are not yet fishing masters to go to the ordinary fisheries tomorrow to search for a white fishing boat. Yes, young master. Li Hu sneered. Han Fei, are you an idiot? You got the white fishing boat from the angel. It's just like the brightest star in the night sky. We can easily find you with this boat. The next morning, dawn came, and as Han Fei's cultivation came to an abrupt halt, the sea surface immediately stirred. Although Han Fei had reached level 9, he still hid in the cabin. Come on, even a fishing master like Li Lang could hardly handle the fishes. I don't think I can do better than him if I go out. After less than half an hour, Han Fei threw the great amount of dead fish, whose spiritual energy had been absorbed by him, into the sea, and checked his own spiritual energy with a frown. It was only 4,620 points. Damn, the fishes' spiritual energy is too low, not even 5,000 points. If I meet a master like Li Lang again, I'll need at least 2,000 points to beat him. If two of them come, I will be in danger. Little Black, go hunting in the sea by yourself. I don't care what you do, but you must upgrade to level 3 today." Upon hearing this, Little Black jumped into the seawater. Now Han Fei was already on the edge of ordinary fisheries where there were very few people. He was now a level 9 fisher and his strength was completely different from before. Perhaps this time, he could give it a try on the seabed. Suddenly, Han Fei was shocked by his bold idea. A fisher is thinking about going to the seabed to earn spiritual energy. If it were known by fishing masters, they would probably slap me to death. Anyway, fortune comes from danger. When I was still an ordinary person, I dared to dive into the sea in a diving suit and play with sharks. Why should my courage diminish now? With a flop, Han Fei jumped into the sea. As soon as he entered the sea, he exercised the wandering dragon art, and then he saw that Little Black was nibbling a snakebelt while Little White was circling around him. Wow, do you guys have any idea that you're only level 2? Seeing Han Fei appear, Little White quickly swam over. He seemed to ask him, "Master, why are you here?" Little Black also swam over reluctantly. "Didn't you tell me to eat fish here? Are you here to take me back?" Han Fei carried purple bamboo rod in his right hand with a blade fish dagger on his waist and an iron fishing rod hanging on his back as he dove into the seabed. A blade fish wanted to swim over to see what Han Fei was. However, he felt a bite on him before he approached, and he hurriedly struggled and searched in anger for the thing that attacked him, but he found nothing after searching around. Then its tail disappeared, so did its belly. Han Fei clicked his tongue. It's really horrible to be attacked by an invisible creature. He still remembered the way Li Lang, dripping with blood from bites, desperately searched for what was biting him. As Han Fei dove into the sea, there were schools of fish coming over and swimming around him. No matter how powerful Little Black was, he had only one mouth and could not eat this many fish at the same time. It was only when the fish in the schools found that they had a companion who suddenly became bones that they ran away. It was not as dangerous as last time for Han Fei. Although snakebelts swam over occasionally, he was not afraid at all. It was just that once he killed a fish in the sea, a school of fish would be attracted. This was very troublesome because he had to escape before absorbing enough spiritual energy. On the seabed, Han Fei didn't see coral reefs this time but a gray muddy ground and some jagged stones. As an experienced fisher, Han Fei knew very well how many dangers hid under the mud. Shit, what the hell is this place? There is no coral reef here. How can I get an opportunity for a breakthrough? At this moment, Han Fei was suspended 5 or 6 meters above the mud and his body was agile like a swimming fish. Little Black and Little White were flanking him. As two snakebelts quickly swam over from a distance, Han Fei's eyes lit up. An opportunity has come. In the icy waters, Han Fei was a heat source, which quickly attracted the attention of the fishes. At the same time, under the stones, some green crabs began to show up. Poochie! A snakebelt frantically darted towards him, and Han Fei dodged in a strange angle, pulling out the blade fish dagger from his waist and killed the snakebelt. On the other side, Little Black was nibbling a snakebelt that struggled fiercely and twisted its body in pain, though it didn't know what was biting it. Without any chance to escape, the snakebelt was bitten into 2 pieces and it sank. As soon as the 2 snakebelts died, the mud stirred. For a moment, it seemed as though hundreds of sticks had shot out of the dirt, which startled Han Fei. Wow, sea snakes. Less than name greater than green scale sea snake. Less than level greater than 7. Less than quality greater than regular. Less than spiritual energy greater than 21. Less than edible effect greater than drinking snake blood for a long time can supplement your chi and blood and enhance physical fitness. Less than collectible greater than green scale snake gall. Less than absorbable greater than. Han Fei hurriedly drifted up a bit. His blood almost froze. These sea snakes rooted their tails in the soil. Once a prey came in sight, they would swarm out. They looked exactly like sticks. If they hadn't tilted their heads, ready to attack the enemy at any time, he might have been fooled by their mimicry. Did I enter a snake pit? Han Fei's face was all black. How can I deal with these snakes? They don't come out and I dare not go down. While Han Fei was hesitating, he saw Little Black rush past with a swish and bit a sea snake into 2 halves. Yes, How can I forget Little Black? These sea snakes can't see Little Black. He can just drill into the snake pit and eat them slowly. Therefore, Han Fei just drifted in the air, occasionally killing 1 or 2 snakebelts and throwing them down to the bottom of the sea after absorbing their spiritual energy. Even the big green crabs under the stones came up and ate the bodies of the sea snakes. Soon, the bloody smell began to thicken. Han Fei saw rotating starfish flying over like darts, and hermit crabs that seemed to have snail shells on their backs came out of the mud in all directions. The sea snakes seemed to have been angered. "We don't eat you shelled ones. Why are you attacking us? You've gone too far." So a fight began. More and more snakebelts appeared in the distance, as well as green turtles, blade fish, and iron-head fish. For a time, cold lights flashed and crashing sounds were heard without end. Han Fei found that the calabash on his wrist was shining and seemed to be swallowing spirit. And not only the calabash, Little White was also absorbing spiritual energy in this bloody scene like an elf in the water. What? Can Little White absorb spiritual energy from 20 meters away? Han Fei immediately swam onto a stone, letting the calabash slowly absorb spiritual energy. From time to time, snakebelts swam over to siege him but were all killed. The battle had been very fierce and dead fishes were everywhere. Han Fei could occasionally see Little Black shuttle under the water. Suddenly, Han Fei frowned. The Encyclopedia of Spiritual Plants said that snake fruit would produce in the gathering place of sea snakes, especially green-scale sea snakes. This snake fruit was a spiritual fruit and was recorded in the Encyclopedia of Spiritual Plants. Snake fruit was a low-level spirit fruit. As snakes wouldn't move their nests for a long time, their saliva would accumulate and nourish an associated spiritual fruit. Eating this fruit could help restore a small amount of spiritual energy and heal wounds. However, its core value lay in alchemy. The snake pill fruit refined from snake fruit had a great restoring effect and contained a lot of spiritual energy. Little White, Little White. Little White swam to Han Fei while he was absorbing the spiritual energy. Han Fei pointed at the ground and tried communicating with him. "Little White, go see if there is dark green fruit. If there is, bring it to me. Don't eat it." Little White immediately swam away and disappeared in the mud in a blink of an eye. Chapter 74 Marching Sea Leeches. Chapter 74 Marching Sea Leeches. Little White went away for about 10 minutes and swam back to Han Fei with a string of snake fruit in his mouth. Han Fei was overjoyed. He didn't expect such a benefit in studying the Encyclopedia of Spiritual Plants. He looked at the green scale snake fruit in his hand and a string of data appeared. Less than name greater than green scale snake fruit. Less than introduction greater than a spiritual fruit coexisting with green scale sea snakes and nourished with the snake's saliva. It can increase the spiritual energy of snake pits. Less than level greater than low level spiritual fruit. Less than quality greater than bad. Less than spiritual energy greater than 500 points. Less than effect greater than directly eating it can increase a small amount of spiritual energy. Fishers can build up their bodies if taking it, but it's ineffective for fishing masters and above. There were 7 or 8 pieces of fruit in this string, which were all thumb-sized, but according to the Encyclopedia of Spiritual Plants, a snake fruit was as large as a fist. Was it because these sea snakes were too low of a level? Yes, this was just an ordinary fishery. How could there be so many treasures? Otherwise, fishing masters would all rush to ordinary fisheries for hunting. Han Fei swallowed all the pieces of fruit, one fruit at a time. He wouldn't bother to save them for alchemy. That would be too much work, let alone that he knew nothing about alchemy. It had been about half an hour, but the fighting showed no sign of stopping. The sea snakes had all been killed and the crabs were busy scrambling for the dead bodies of the sea snakes and fighting one another like mad. Iron-head fish crashed against the crabs, smashed their shells, and ate the crab roe inside. Snakebelts were nothing here. Han Fei saw some snakebelts swim over, but only a few seconds later, they were cut into countless pieces by crab claws and eaten by the crabs. But during this time, Han Fei had absorbed nearly 5,000 points of spiritual energy. This was the bottom of the sea, where danger and opportunity coexisted. Ouch! Han Fei suddenly felt a pain in his leg. He patted his leg unconsciously and looked down, only to see his hands covered in blood. FCK, what is it? Less than name greater than marching sea leech. Less than level greater than 1. Less than quality greater than regular. Less than spiritual energy greater than 1 point. Less than introduction greater than a submarine mollusk that can be used as bait. When they breed, they forage in swarms and need to eat a lot of food, so everywhere they march over, nothing is left. When they're marching in swarms, they are invincible at level 3 fisheries and below. Han Fei's expression changed drastically. He picked up one of these finger-long leeches. The slippery worm was slapped to death by Han Fei, leaving a pool of blood and mucus. Ew! Suddenly, Han Fei shuddered and looked back quickly. The scene he saw almost froze his blood. Dozens of leeches were drifting over, and behind them, it was a dark and dense mass of leeches. Han Fei almost peed. If there were only hundreds or thousands of them, they might have been eaten up by the fishes along the way. But marching sea leeches, just like marching desert ants, usually came out in swarms, and everywhere they went, not even a single blade of grass was left. Run, little black and little white, run. Having no time to care about the fighting fishes, Han Fei ejected like a rocket and didn't dare to delay at all. Even a fishing master would be turned into a mummy if trapped by marching sea leeches. Han Fei exercised the wandering dragon art and quickly slipped away. Little Black followed behind him and swallowed a marching sea leech from time to time. You foodie, are you still eating? Do you think marching sea leeches won't eat you because you're invisible? No, they will devour everything in their path. Han Fei turned his head, only to find that the crabs, blade fishes, and ironhead fishes that were fighting fiercely had all disappeared. All he could see was a dense cloud of marching sea leeches. Shit, so fast. Han Fei speeded up, and at the same time, refilled his body with spiritual energy and accelerated to swim towards the surface of the sea. Clash! Han Fei jumped out of the water, only to find that his white fishing boat seemed to be thousands of kilometers away. He quickly got into the water again and rushed towards the fishing boat. But as soon as Han Fei jumped into the water, he saw a swarm of marching sea leech a few hundred meters away. He was stunned. Damn it! My fishing boat is on the other side of these marching sea leeches. Han Fei almost burst into tears. Are you kidding me? Without a fishing boat, do I have to have a swim race with these leeches? Fortunately, I still have the wandering dragon art anyway. Marching sea leeches won't necessarily win against me. Without any hesitation, Han Fei swam crazily in the opposite direction of his fishing boat. Han Fei really regretted that he came to such a remote place. If there were someone else with him, they could jump into his boat, but now, no one would save him from the swarm of worms. Of course, it was not just Han Fei who was running for his life. There were blade fish darting forward around Han Fei, and behind him, there were whitefish and yellow fish. He even saw a big meat turtle rise to the surface and run for its life, but the meat turtle seemed not to be confident with its speed, so it shrank its head into its shell. Han Fei couldn't help but worry. Do you think you'll be safe to shrink into your shell? The leeches could easily devour your shell. At this time, no fish was attacking Han Fei. After all, life was more precious than the stomach. Even fish knew this. At the same time, dozens of miles away, dozens of fishing boats were slowly approaching. Li Hu looked gloomy. How could Han Fei defeat Uncle Wolf? Tang Jie must have given him some special treasures. A person standing behind Li Hu said, "Young master, Li Lang's ship is badly devastated. It seems that he had encountered a small fish tide. Maybe he was not killed by Han Fei." Stupid. Can a small fish tied in an ordinary fishery kill a fishing master? Besides, Uncle Wolf can become an intermediate fishing master after fusing with his swordfish. How can the demonic fishes in a common fishery kill him? Li Hu was very angry. A fishing master. How valuable a fishing master is. The tigers only had 5 fishing masters in total. Now they had lost one. Suddenly, one of his men shouted, "Young master, we seem to have encountered a school of fish." This person was looking and pointing at the distant sea with excitement. For fishermen, encountering a school of fish was a good thing. Almost every fisherman hoped to come across these schools every day. Li Hu froze for a moment, wondering if the closer to the border, the luckier one would be. But he still shook his head and said, "Don't forget our purpose, find Han Fei and kill him. Uncle Wolf is dead, so Han Fei can't be safe. Otherwise, he would have returned to the village long ago." Soon, the fleet led by Li Hu and the school of fish met. Most of the fishes floated on the surface of the water and swam quickly, with no intention to stay. Some people looked at the sea surface and wondered, well, did you find that the fishes didn't look right? They are all different species of fish. Why do they appear together? Someone pointed to the sea. What is there? There is a strange big fish jumping on the sea surface. It looks like a swordfish. Huh, how can a swordfish appear in an ordinary fishery? Suddenly, someone shouted, not good, the fishes are not foraging but escaping. Something is chasing them. Before this man finished his words, another man shouted, look, that's not a swordfish but a person. Everyone was stunned. Are UFC King kidding me? Someone was swimming in the sea. Did he want to swim to hell? In the next moment, they found that that was a person indeed, but he swam faster than many fishes. Then the crowd noticed that there was a black, dense swarm of some creatures, but they couldn't see clearly what they were. Suddenly, someone screamed, run! Young master, run! Those are marching sea leeches. The fleet was instantly in an uproar and everyone was frightened. How could marching sea leeches appear in an ordinary fishery? There was a 1 in a million chance to encounter marching sea leeches in a level 1 fishery. Don't they mostly appear in level 2 fisheries? Li Hu was also panicked. Having no time to think where Han Fei was, he shouted, everyone, run! Han Fei hadn't thought that he would swim faster than the marching sea leeches. After all, each man had his limits. He was not a real fish and couldn't swim as easily as fish. But at this moment, he saw hope. There were fishing boats. He immediately refilled his body with spiritual energy and his swimming speed skyrocketed. Swoosh! Before the fleet fled, Han Fei caught the stern rail with his fishhook. He glided as fast as he could on the sea surface to catch up with the ships while shouting, run, marching sea leeches are coming. The members of the Tigers were all stunned, including Li Hu. He looked back, only to find that it was no one else but Han Fei. Han Fei was also dumbfounded. Li Hu. In an instant, Han Fei realized that this fleet was here to kill him. Haha, that's really interesting. What a small world. Bam! Han Fei landed on a fishing boat. Before Li Hu said anything, Han Fei had hit a member of the Tigers with his purple bamboo rod. Clang! The level 9 fisher quickly blocked Han Fei's blow, pondering how he should quickly kill this guy and claim the credit. But as soon as his rod met purple bamboo rod, he felt a great force fall upon him, which bent his rod and almost shattered his insides. Poof! Without hesitation, Han Fei grabbed this person in one hand and threw him into the sea. No, help, young master, Li Hu shouted, kill him for me. Li Hu shouted at the crowd and steered the fishing boat in panic, trying to make the ship take off. There was certainly more than one person on this fishing boat and the other 3 all rushed towards Han Fei. Go to hell, explode. Chapter 75 A Narrow Escape. Chapter 75, A Narrow Escape. Han Fei launched a spiritual energy explosion attack at them, but everyone here had acquired this simple combat skill, so at the moment he launched this attack, the 3 level 9 fishers on the opposite side shouted and also launched spiritual energy explosion attacks at him. Shit! Han Fei was smashed out of the fishing boat by their attacks, and the 3 people were also shaken off the boat one after the other. The huge collision force of the spiritual energy explosions caused a gust of wind. In mid-air, Han Fei saw that the marching sea leeches were only less than 100 meters away. If he fell into the water, he would be turned into a mummy soon. Swish! With a twinkle, he exercised the hook kiss technique and hung onto Li Hu's fishing boat. Yanking the fishing boat, Han Fei flew towards Li Hu's fishing boat. Young master, watch out! Protect young master! On Li Hu's ship, there were as many as 5 people protecting him, all of whom were level 9 fishers. Before Han Fei boarded the ship, the 5 people had all stood on the bow, shielding Li Hu behind them. FCK. Han Fei wasn't afraid of the 5 people. None of them were fishing masters. If he fought them on the flat ground, he could surely beat them. After all, although he was also a level 9 fisher, he could kill a fishing master. But now suspended in the air, he couldn't play to his full strength. If the 5 of them launched spiritual energy attacks at him like before, he would be hit down into the sea. Li Hu, You little maggot. I swear, I'll kill you if I survive. With a shout, Han Fei withdrew the fishing rod and threw the fishhook at the fishing boat with the fewest people on it. But there were still 3 people on that fishing boat and one of them was steering the boat. Li Hu shouted, Han Fei, you're dead meat. Although you won't be killed by me, I'll still be very happy to see you killed by the marching sea leeches, ha ha ha. Han Fei said nothing. 2 fishing boats that hadn't taken off yet were already crawling with marching sea leeches. The purple bamboo rod flashed in Han Fei's hands and he was ready to launch another spiritual energy explosion attack. Little Black, bite him. The 2 people who were going to intercept Han Fei were wondering. Who is Little Black? Suddenly, one of them felt that something had bitten their thigh. He thought that the marching sea leeches had got on the boat and quickly looked down in fright. Han Fei gave a cold smile and threw a flying knife at him. Ah! Before the person looked up, Han Fei had launched a spiritual energy explosion attack, and the 2 of them flew upside down by the blow, blood spurting out of their bodies. The flying knife had inserted itself into the eye of the person who was bitten by Little Black. Hey, you shouldn't have let me get on board. Die. Explode. The man who was steering the fishing boat panicked. Is this guy the waste young master spoke of? Bullshit. Kinda waste. Beat 2 level 9 fishers with 1 blow. Kinda waste. Continuously launch such powerful spiritual energy explosion attacks. Han Fei launched another attack and one of the level 9 fishers was sent flying through the air, falling heavily into the sea with a bang. Help me. Before he finished speaking, he had been covered with leeches, and in the blink of an eye, his face quickly shriveled. Another person was also seriously injured and both arms were broken. Han Fei casually poked him into the sea with his rod, not even looking at him. The only person left widened his eyes and shouted at Han Fei, if you dare to come over, I will destroy this fishing boat. Han Fei frowned and just wanted to kill the guy, but he still said calmly, I can spare your life. You can go to another fishing boat. What do you think? The man glanced around in panic and frowned. There were only 5 fishing boats that managed to take off. Among them, Li Hu's boat flew the highest and furthest away. The remaining 3 fishing boats were all at least 100 meters away from him. He would fall into the water if he was not careful. How could he go to another boat? So the man said, even if I escape to another boat, the tigers won't let me off. Rather than this, I might as well die with you. Maybe leader will take care of my family for me. Han Fei said coldly, are you a fool? Are you sure Li Ju will treat your family kindly if you die? From what I know of the tigers, if you die, your wife will be given to another man as a gift and your child will have to call another man father. Who knows how they'll be treated? You'll kill me anyway. What can I do? The man roared and his eyes turned bloodshot. Han Fei shook his head. Who said I will kill you? Do you know Li Gang? He tried to kill me twice but failed. I gave him the opportunity to follow me. Now he is in charge of the most delicious barbecue stall in the world in the port, making tons of money. And I believe it won't be long before he becomes even richer. Since I can take him under my wing, why can't I take you? This man froze and seemed to have an inner struggle. Obviously he knew Li Gang and knew that Li Gang was doing well now, so he was moved by Han Fei's words. Han Fei quickly added, look, Li Ju is now seriously wounded and has lost half of his strength. Li Hu is a waste. I can easily kill him. I was a level 2 fisher a month and a half ago, but now I can kill a level 9 fisher as easily as killing a yellow fish. I will wipe out the tigers soon. If you don't yield to me now, you will die. I think you know what to choose, right? At this time, Li Hu was looking here in his fishing boat that was a few hundred meters away. He seemed to be shouting something at this man. His voice came with the wind and it could be vaguely heard that he was telling this man to kill Han Fei. Han Fei laughed. See, this is your young master. He just wants you to kill me and doesn't care about your life at all. But why doesn't he come by himself? Because he doesn't dare. Once I board his ship, he will be dead meat. Now, tell me, what's your choice? The man seemed to be having a fierce struggle inside. He looked at the black, dense mass of leeches under the boat, took a deep breath, and looked back at Han Fei. Can you promise not to kill me? Han Fei smiled. Do you believe my promise? You have no choice, but I'm not a bloodthirsty person. Otherwise, I would have killed Li Hu in that fishing trial. Then I wouldn't have been in this trouble. The man asked, did you kill the fishing master, Li Lang? Li Lang, the fishing master who tried to assassinate me last night. Yes, I killed him. Okay, I'm on your side now. The marching sea leeches will soon pass. There are 13 level 9 fishers with young master on Li Hu's side, including himself. How can we escape? Han Fei instructed, steer the boat over there. The fishing boat that the angel, Fang Zi, gave me is over there. Once we get on my fishing boat, nobody can catch up to us. Okay. The man immediately steered the fishing boat to fly towards Han Fei's white fishing boat. From this moment on, he had betrayed the tigers. The only thing he could do was to count on this man. He can kill a fishing master. What horrible potential he has. Even though he is only a level 9 fisher now. The middle-aged man remembered what Li Hu said before coming, who said that Han Fei was just a level 7 fisher. Now he just wanted to give Li Hu 2 slaps. Idiot, do you have any idea what kind of enemy you have made? Han Fei asked the man, what's your name? Li Qing, master. Han Fei waved his hand. You don't have to call me master. I won't treat you as a subordinate. When we're done here, you can go to manage the barbecue stall with Li Gang and you can keep 10% of the profits. Huh, the middle-aged man couldn't believe his ears. He could keep 10% of the profits. He knew how rich Li Gang was now, who could earn 10 mid-quality pearls a day. Many members of the Tigers envied him and everyone said that the fatty had changed from a pheasant into a phoenix. Suddenly, Li Qing's face changed. Not good, they are coming at us. Han Fei just smiled. Don't worry, even if they come over, so what? There are all level 9 fishers. We don't have to be afraid of them. Soon, Han Fei saw his white fishing boat. At this moment, the marching sea leeches had come over and the white fishing boat was also covered with a layer of leeches. Han Fei said, let's rush over. There are only a few worms. We can easily deal with them. Li Qing nodded. The two instantly jumped into the white fishing boat. Han Fei released spiritual energy to shake the leeches off the boat before steering the fishing boat to quickly leave. 100 meters behind him, Li Hu was roaring angrily. Li Qing, you bastard. How dare you betray the tigers? I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill your entire FC King family. Seeing Li Qing's face turn gloomy, Han Fei smiled. He can do nothing but yell at you, or, can we leave them here forever, can we? Chapter 76 A Crushing Defeat for Li Hu. Chapter 76. A Crushing Defeat for Li Hu. Li Qing was shocked. How is that possible? There are 14 of them, including Li Hu. Even if you have the strength to kill a fishing master, once you're trapped by them, no one knows what will happen. Han Fei nodded. Yes, there are quite a few of them. But we can solve them one boat after another. I guess you have no idea how good a quality my fishing boat is. Oh. As a frantic gleam flicked in Han Fei's eyes, the white fishing boat suddenly took off and turned around, darting at one of the fishing boats. Li Qing was terrified. Is he actually hitting a boat with his own? Han Fei said, get ready to take over the fishing boat at any time. If they dare to jump into my boat, I'll beat the hell out of them. The 4 fishing boats accompanying Li Hu were chasing the white fishing boat frantically. Seeing the boat running further and further away, they had almost given up. Who would expect the white fishing boat to suddenly turn around and rush straight at them? On one of the fishing boats, someone exclaimed, not good, he is hitting our boat with his. The 3 people wondered if Han Fei was crazy. Once the keel of his boat broke from the collision, he could only wander at sea. But immediately they realized that this was not some garbage fishing boat produced in the Heavenly Water Village. It was a fishing boat from the city. That kind of fishing boat was prepared for a journey to unknown places outside of level 3 fisheries. How could it be on the same level as their fishing boats? Before they had time to think about it, they saw the white fishing boat crashing into their boat like a big bird. Bam! Han Fei shouted, Li Qing, take over this boat. Li Qing immediately took over the white fishing boat. Now he had no turning back. Since he had fled with Han Fei, he had already betrayed the tigers, and they certainly wouldn't let him off. Fortunately, this white fishing boat was really sturdy. It easily left a big hole in the other party's fishing boat and bent its keel. Damn, let's kill them. Except for the man who was controlling the fishing boat, who fell to the sea with the boat, the other two jumped into the air and tried to board Han Fei's fishing boat. Han Fei sneered, "How did you treat me just now? Now you want to board my boat? Get down." Explode. With a loud bang, spiritual energy scattered and rolled forwards, and the two people fell uncontrollably to the sea. No, Li Hu roared. Li Hu gnashed his teeth in resentment at the sight of this scene. He said to the people on the other two fishing boats, "Let's trap him and see how he can deal with 3 fishing boats at the same time." Han Fei quickly turned around. "Li Qing, pick one boat and hit it." In fact, before Han Fei issued the order, Li Qing had already steered the white fishing boat to crash towards the furthest fishing boat. The 3 people on that fishing boat became anxious. They were the furthest away but not as fast as the white fishing boat. If the white fishing boat rammed their boat, they would have no chance to survive. "Run," Han Fei sneered, "do you think you can get away?" 100 meters away, Li Hu shouted, "Land, land on the sea. Let's deal with him together." A cold light flashed across Han Fei's eyes and he said coldly to Li Qing, "Kill the 3 men first." Bam! The 2 fishing boats collided again. This time the white fishing boat precisely hit the place where the driver was located and tore open a big hole, making it fall uncontrollably. The 3 people had to give up on the fishing boat as they tried to jump into Han Fei's fishing boat. "Little Black, bite them." One of these people suddenly lost a piece of flesh from his neck. He froze in the air for a moment before dropping to the sea. The other 2 were terrified and greeted by a spiritual energy explosion attack. Unable to resist it at all, they were sent flying and fell into the water. Unfortunately, Li Hu and another fishing boat had landed. The 2 fishing boats joined together and chased down to the place where the other boats fell. Han Fei clicked his tongue. What a pity. If we had moved faster, we could have destroyed one more boat. Li Qing felt a chill down his spine. How many ships do you want to destroy? 40 or 50 of us with more than a dozen ships came to kill you, but how many people are left? There were only 8 people left on the 2 fishing boats, including Li Hu. The elite members of the Tigers were almost wiped out. And you think it's not enough? At this time, a person stuck his head up from the water. Wow, he is still alive. Han Fei was surprised. This man was really lucky to survive. But it was not strange. Although he was injured, there weren't many fishes in the sea at this moment. After all, the marching sea leeches had just passed by. But although the man climbed into the boat, he was covered with leeches and had almost been sucked dry. There were still some leeches left in the sea, although most of them had left. No one knew how many leeches were hidden in the sea. This man was lucky not to be sucked to death by them. Li Qing asked, "What should we do now?" "Follow them. Don't give them a chance to escape. Once the boats separate, hit them separately." Li Qing fell silent. It seemed that Han Fei was determined to kill Li Hu, but he didn't object to that. If Li Hu went back, he would definitely take revenge on him. Unlike Li Gang, who was expelled out of the Tigers, he betrayed them, which was completely different. "Young master, now what shall we do? Our fishing boat can't stand the impact of the white fishing boat. If we separate, I'm afraid that they will destroy us one by one." Li Hu's face was gloomy. "What if we take off at the same time and fly back to the village?" Someone analyzed, "Young master, this is not an appropriate move. I think Han Fei's strength is not weak. I am afraid that he already has the combat power to be at the peak of level 9. If he hits us with his boat, we can't all jump into his ship in a short time. If so, I'm afraid half of us would die. Go to the central fishery. Go to a crowded place and turn to an inspector for help." Han Fei was standing on the bow of the boat, not worried at all. He was looking at the sun in the sky, wondering if he would be burned to death if he drew spiritual energy from the sun. He abandoned this idea in a flash. That'd be too painful. I'm afraid that I'd be roasted within seconds. "Little Black, did you see those 2 ships? Go bite the people on them. Show no mercy to them." Han Fei thought to himself, even Li Lang, a fishing master, couldn't resist Little Black's sharp teeth. How can these level 9 fishers defend themselves? Little Black swam out quickly, and after a while, screams were heard from afar. At first, only one person was screaming, but soon, they began to scream one after the other. Han Fei sneered, standing on the bow. Just fill your bodies with spiritual energy. Otherwise, you'll end up being bitten to death. Sure enough, after a while, someone began to fill their body with spiritual energy. At first, it was only one, then two, and in the end, everyone there had filled their bodies with spiritual energy. Even Li, who had lost a few pieces of flesh before he filled his body with spiritual energy. Li Qing's heart trembled. He didn't know what kind of hex Han Fei had used to attack those people from a few hundred meters away that forced them to exhaust their spiritual energy to protect themselves. He knew that he had discovered Han Fei's secret, so he must keep his mouth shut. Otherwise, he would be killed. Li Hu stood on the bow of the ship and roared, "Han Fei, what demonic trick are you using? You're really vicious." Han Fei responded, "Wanna know? Beg me." In less than half an hour, the people on Li Hu's side had almost run out of spiritual energy and could no longer fill their bodies with spiritual energy, so soon, someone screamed again. "What the hell is biting me? Why can't I see it?" A man waved around with his rod like crazy, but the next moment, a piece of flesh was bitten off from his wrist. 1 hour later, 2 people were bitten to death by Little Black. One was the guy who climbed up after falling into the water, and the other was the only level 8 fisher brought out by Li Hu. Han Fei said indifferently, "There are 7 people left. With 2 more dead, you won't be able to go back." Hearing Han Fei's muttering, Li Qing didn't dare to say a word for fear that Han Fei regretted sparing his life and would turn around to kill him. After a moment, Li Qing stuttered, Young Master Han Fei, I'm running out of spiritual energy." Li Qing was helpless. If this was an ordinary fishing boat, he would have no problem controlling it for such a long time. But this was not an ordinary one, and his spiritual energy was consumed fast. Han Fei casually waved his hand and a column of spiritual energy was poured into his body. In an instant, Li Qing felt that his spiritual energy was restored quickly. Li Qing was shocked. "What is this? A spirit gatherer?" Han Fei said coldly, "Don't tell anyone about this for now. Otherwise, you should know the consequences." Li Qing hurriedly bowed his head. "Yes, I'll keep a tight lip and never ever tell anyone about it, not even my wife and children." Chapter 77 Shoot to Fame. Chapter 77. Shoot to Fame. Li Qing was trembling. The entire Heavenly Water Village knew where Han Fei got the spirit concentration art, which Fang Zi gave to him after the fishing trial. But how long had it been since the end of the fishing trial? Had he acquired this art so soon? Now Li Qing just wanted to slap those who said that Han Fei was a waste. If a person like Han Fei was a waste, then who could be called a genius? Now he was very glad that he had betrayed the tigers. Otherwise, he would have ended up in the stomachs of those leeches. Han Fei was not in a hurry. He looked at Li Hu with a smile. "The fishing trial means to show us the cruelty of the ocean, doesn't it?" Li Qing didn't know what Han Fei meant by that, but he vaguely felt a trace of terror. At this time, the fishing boats were already close to the central fishery. Some fishing boats appeared in the distance, and occasionally 1 or 2 fishing boats flew in the sky. Han Fei smiled. They may have a chance to survive if they fly to the sky, but they chose to lead me to the central fishery. What can they do here? In the near distance, on the 2 fishing boats, the others had almost exhausted their spiritual energy, whereas Li Hu still had enough. He probably had taken multiple spirit refilling pills. Li Qing hit Li Hu's boat. Now, after all, killing is not something pleasing to watch. Just hit it. Li Hu said nothing more and began to slam into Li Hu's fishing boat at full speed. Just then, Li Hu suddenly shouted, "Abandon the boat." Han Fei played with his purple bamboo rod and sneered, "What an idiot. If it's useful to abandon the boat, why did I bother to wait for so long?" Li Hu abandoned his fishing boat and all the 7 people gathered on the other boat. Some of them were still waving their rods and hitting the air. They had discovered that there must be something invisible biting them. At the moment, except for Li Hu, the other 6 were all drenched with blood. Li Hu sullenly said, "Get ready to fight." At the moment the 2 fishing boats collided, Han Fei roared and rushed forward. With a flash of the purple bamboo rod, he was ready to launch another spiritual energy explosion attack. 3 people were standing in front of Li Hu to protect him, and another 3 clenched their rods in their hands, trying to ignore the thing biting them. However, only one of the 3 made a spiritual energy explosion attack, because the other 2 had exhausted their spiritual energy. Han Fei squatted down, holding the railing with one hand and dodging the attack with a strange posture. Then he turned around and kicked, and with a boom, one of the people was kicked into the sea. Then, as ordered by Han Fei, Little Black jumped into the sea. Since you've fallen into the sea, then stay there forever. Explode. Again, Han Fei jumped and hit one of them with his rod, breaking the iron rod in this man's hand and denting his head. As blood oozed from this man's eyes, nose and mouth, he fell stiffly backwards. Li Hu yelled, "Brothers! Together up!" But he was already horrified. He didn't know how Han Fei had become so strong. Although Han Fei was strong during the fishing trial, he was not as strong as now. At that time, he even blocked the 3 attacks of Han Fei. But now, he killed 3 people with 2 blows, which was horrifying. At this moment, Li Hu had no doubt that Li Lang was killed by Han Fei. This guy was a mystery. He must have some big secrets. Han Fei was about to behead the next one, but behind him, Li Qing suddenly swung his rod at that guy, shouting, "Young master, I will solve this person." Li Qing felt he had to show his allegiance to Han Fei now. He could feel the murderous intentions in Han Fei. He was only a 12-year-old boy now. Why was he so scary? He doubted that if he didn't take action right away, he would be killed too. Li Hu was furious. "Li Qing, you traitor! Humph! The tigers committed countless crimes. I have long wanted to quit." The 3 people in front of Li Hu gritted their teeth, but Han Fei launched attacks one after another. They couldn't resist them at all. After 3 blows from Han Fei, one of them was killed, one jumped into the sea, trying to go to the nearest fishing boat for help, but after swimming for less than 30 meters, he was dragged into the water by something unknown. The hands of the last one had been broken and he dropped feebly while blood dripped from his mouth. "I don't want to die. FCK off, you piece of junk." Li Hu pushed the person into the sea, shouting, "Tiger head, fuse with me." Han Fei sneered, "Phew. Does your ugly fish come back to life?" Knowing that there was no way back, Li Hu rushed towards Han Fei with a roar. "Han Fei, one of us must die here today." Han Fei took 2 steps forward, hitting him hard with his rod, and with a loud bang, Li Hu was sent flying and spiritual energy began to leak from his body. Han Fei casually shook his head and chuckled. "You're right, one of us must die here today. Guess it's you or me. Gee, I thought you would be stronger after your breakthrough. It turns out that you are even weaker than those you brought with your. They are already at the peak of level 9 anyway. But what about you? A weakling who has just entered level 9 and can't reach the peak of level 9 even after fusing with your spiritual beast. What makes you believe you can kill me?" Li Hu had no sooner stood up when Han Fei hit him with his rod again, smashing the deck. "I heard that the tigers have been running amok." Bam! "I heard that the tigers kill people like flies." Bam! "I heard that you had my fishing boat destroyed at the port and made me float for 5 days and 5 nights at sea." Bam! "I heard that you want to kill me." Bam! At this time, Li Qing had just killed a seriously injured former colleague. After seeing this scene, every time Han Fei hit Li Hu, his eyelids twitched and his heart pounded. Han Fei didn't use a spiritual energy explosion. After Han Fei hit Li Hu 7 or 8 times, a big fish rushed out of Li Hu's body and bit at Han Fei. This seemed to be Li Hu's last card. Boom, boom, boom. The tiger head fish was hurled to the deck like a dying serpent. Han Fei cursed, "How dare you bite me, you stupid, stinky fish." Shit. Li Hu's mouth was full of blood. He still tried to struggle, but he couldn't even sit up. Han Fei, stop it. In the distance, 300 meters away, a fishing boat was quickly approaching. Han Fei recognized at a glance that it was his teacher, Wang Jia, an inspector of ordinary fisheries. Han Fei waved at Wang Jia with a smile. Then without bowing his head, he said softly to Li Hu, "Be a fish in your next life. You don't deserve to live as a human being again." With that, The tail of his rod flashed and he thrusted the rod into Li Hu's chest with a jerk and pierced his body. Watching this scene, Li Qing was drenched with sweat and turned ghastly pale. The next moment, Wang Jia arrived. He glanced at the blood-stained fishing boat, then at Li Hu whose eyes were still wide open, and took a deep breath. Wang Jia was shocked. In the morning, his men reported to him that dozens of fishing boats of the Tigers headed for the ordinary fisheries. Wang Jia knew that something bad would happen, so he immediately went to ask Li Gang, who said that Han Fei went to He Xiaoyu's house, but when he hurried to He Xiaoyu's house, her mother said that Han Fei went to sea. Wang Jia immediately had an awful premonition. But at this moment, seeing this scene, he didn't know what to say. Someone reported that there was a fierce fight here, and when he arrived, he saw the bloody scene for himself. Han Fei just smiled. Mr. Wang, this is what happens at sea, isn't it? Fighting with the sea, fighting with the fish, and fighting with people. Fortunately, I won. Theoretically, killing was not allowed in ordinary fisheries, but the Tigers tried to hunt Han Fei first, so although Han Fei killed these people, nobody would say anything about it. Besides, Han Fei was his student, so Wang Jia didn't say anything and took Han Fei back to the floating island. Wang Jia said upon leaving, "You're not allowed into the sea for 3 months." On this day, the Heavenly Water Village was in an uproar. It was said that Han Fei, the first-place winner of the last fishing trial, killed the son of Li Ju in an ordinary fishery by piercing his chest with his rod. It was rumored that the Tigers lost most of their members in that fight. It was said that the leader of the Tigers, Li Ju, vomited blood in public and his eyes were bleeding. It was said that when Han Fei returned, he declared war against Li Ju. When the old enemy of the Tigers, the Wang family, heard this news, Grandfather Wang laughed happily and exclaimed that Han Fei was really a worthy winner of the fishing trial. As the most outstanding one of the third generation of the Wang family, Wang Baiyu gave a wry smile when hearing the news. He thought to himself, did Han Fei really get where he is today because of Tongge Jie? The entire Heavenly Water Village was talking about Han Fei, but he didn't care at all because He Xiaoyu was leaving. Chapter 78 Cut Out to be a Cook. Chapter 78. Cut Out to be a Cook. He Xiaoyu's mother was all cheered up and couldn't bear to part with her daughter. He Mingtang was sad too. He brought his daughter up with all his heart and was really reluctant to part with her. He Xiaoyu, also drenched in tears, hugged her mother and refused to get on the fishing boat. The village leader said, "Cough, cough. Xiaoyu, going to the town is not like going to the city, you can come back every year." He Mingtang smiled. "You can go now. Remember you are my daughter and have got an exotic spiritual beast. Even in the town, you are the best." He Xiaoyu nodded. "Dad, I will study hard and strive to become a great fishing master as soon as possible." At this time, Han Fei stepped forward. "Well, He Xiaoyu, I heard that the people in the town are all talented and have great strength. I guess that you will have to practice other arts while practicing rod techniques. Here you are. Tang Jie gave me this knife. Keep it. If anyone bullies you, cut them with it." He Mingtang glared at Han Fei. "Is my daughter the kind of person who will casually cut people?" This knife." The village leader's eyes lit up and he took the knife and looked at it. Then he pulled out the blade fish dagger of He Mingtang and hit the two against one another. Hu Mingtang's dagger broke in two in an instant. Everyone's eyes lit up, and the village leader was amazed. Is this a mortal level weapon? It's at least a treasure knife at the mortal level, mid-quality, or even high quality. He Xiaoyu also widened her eyes. A mortal level weapon, she had heard of such a thing before, but never used one. Han Fei scratched his head. "It's not a big deal. It's just a knife. A knife is used to cut people, but I don't cut people, so this knife is not suitable for me." Everyone was speechless. "You don't cut people? Then what about the young master of the Tigers?" "Yes, you didn't cut him but you did stab him to death." He Xiaoyu took the treasure knife happily and felt the coldness of the blade, asking, "What is the name of this knife?" "A knife is a knife. It doesn't have a name. If you'd like, you can give it a name." He Xiaoyu grunted, fondling the knife admiringly. "This knife is black and white and its blade is sharp and shining, so how about I call it, Black and White Knife?" Everyone. Wang Baiyu rolled his eyes and thought, what kind of shitty name is that? Han Fei said, whatever you like. It's up to you. Thank you, Han Fei, I will cover you when I come back from the town. You may not believe it, but honestly, I can kill an iron-head fish with one punch. Do I need you to cover me? Bah, go on bragging. The village leader interrupted the two of them. Okay, it's almost time. Han Fei, are you sure you don't want to come with us? Han Fei shook his head. No, leader, I still have a lot of things to tend to. The village leader just wanted to kick his ass. This kid speaks as though he is the village leader. He has a lot of things to tend to. Who does he think he is? As the fishing boat took off, everyone waved farewell. It was not until the fishing boat disappeared in the clouds that He Mingtang said, Han Fei, that knife. Mister. It's just a knife. Tang Jie left me more than one. He Mingtang. This knife was certainly not given to him by Tang Jie. Han Fei forged this knife with Li Lang's iron rod and the nearly 50-blade fish daggers he got from the fishing trial. Its quality was actually not mid-quality but divine quality. Han Fei walked in with barbecue and spirits. Grandpa, I'm back. The old man lifted his eyelids. You're finally back, brat. Without you here, soon the field will be lying waste. Haven't you thrown some spiritual energy to the fields? The old man sneered, I'm old, so I'm not supposed to work. Isn't it too tiring for me to till the fields? Han Fei was dumbfounded. It's tiring to me too, all right. Han Fei threw the wine jar on the table, walked to the field humming, and sat on the ground. Where did he stop last time? Oh, yes, instilling spiritual energy into the fields in a large area. Han Fei started experimenting, throwing spiritual energy into the field. The old man picked a garlic prawn, pondering while eating. Did this kid really wipe out the elites of the tigers by himself? Has he reached the peak of level 9? The old man twitched the corner of his mouth. Are today's young people all upgrading so quickly? There are no shortages of 12-year-old level 9 fishers or even 12-year-old fishing masters in the town, but there are no 12-year-old level 9 fishers in the town who can kill a fishing master. A month later, Han Fei and Old Zhang were standing in front of a large vat covered with thick fish skin. Old Zhang asked, are you sure you succeeded? Han Fei replied, yes, but even if it has been made, it should be exposed for a period of time after the vat is opened. Are you sure this? What is it called? Vinegar. Yes, are you sure vinegar is delicious? Han Fei explained, it doesn't taste good on its own, but how many kinds of spiritual fruits in the plantation are delicious to eat alone? The old man nodded. Han Fei seemed to be talented in cooking and he didn't have any say in this field. Han Fei took out the blade fish dagger, poked a hole in the fish skin, and suddenly a sour taste floated out of the vat. The old man wrinkled his nose. It smells really bad. Some bad-smelling things are the most delicious. Let's try this semi-finished product first. Maybe it will be half delicious. Let's have a try, sure. When Han Fei began to live in the plantation, Zhongqin started a rotation holiday. When she came from the outside, she saw her grandfather and Han Fei standing around a big vat. Zhongqin asked, what are you doing? Han Fei and Old Zhang said together, secret. All right. Since Han Fei learned how to spread spiritual energy over the land, he no longer tilled the land but focused on his hobbies, mainly cuisine. At first, the old man despised his hobbies, but after he tried the strange dishes Han Fei made, he began to study cooking together with Han Fei, saying that it was one of the great joys of life. He was glad he had a gourmet's luck. Half an hour later, the three of them sat around a table where a large plate of seaweed salad and a large plate of drunk shrimp, as well as 3 large sweet potatoes were placed. Roasted sweet potatoes were loved by both the old man and Zhongqin. They used to eat them raw, but they didn't expect them to be so delicious after being roasted. However, they dare not taste the other 2 dishes. Old Zhang asked, are you sure this is edible? Isn't this seaweed? Is seaweed edible? And this white shrimp is still alive. Look, it's moving. Han Fei tried to explain, is grass inedible? Bugs eat grass. Old Zhang shot back, that's a bug. Is a man a bug? Han Fei rolled his eyes. Bugs are tiny compared to humans, but in front of the heavens and earth, aren't human beings as tiny as dust particles? If bugs can eat grass, so can humans. As for the white shrimp, it's only delicious when it is alive and it will lose its flavor when it dies. However, neither old Zhang nor Zhang Qin touched the two dishes. Han Fei cast a glance at the two with contempt, picked up a white shrimp, and put it into his mouth. As he spat out a piece of shrimp shell, the transparent shrimp flesh had slipped into his stomach. Old Zhang and Zhang Qin exchanged a glance. Seeing that Han Fei seemed to really enjoy it, old Zhang couldn't help but pick one up and put it into his mouth. As soon as he tasted it, his eyes brightened, and then he copied what Han Fei had just done. Old Zhang questioned, "Is this vinegar?" Han Fei was curious about what he thought. "How do you feel?" Old Zhang confessed, "Very good. It's simple and fast to make, and once you make a vat of it, you can eat it for a long time." "Good, good." Zhang Qin frowned, wondering if the two were deceiving her together. However, she had tried the dishes made by Han Fei a few times, which were really good, so in the end she also tasted a drunk shrimp. When the white shrimp touched her tongue, it tasted so smooth and special. It felt as if life was beating on her tongue. The rich wine aroma and the sour yet delicious sauce made her narrow her eyes. "That's really delicious," she thought. "What about this seaweed?" Han Fei smiled. "Why not have a try, Sister Qin?" Thinking of drunk shrimp, Zhang Qin no longer hesitated as she tasted it. Half an hour later, most of the seaweed salad and drunk shrimp were in the stomachs of old Zhang and Zhang Qin, but the roasted sweet potatoes remained untouched. After a while, the old man lay lazily on the chair, chewing roasted sweet potatoes and seemed to be enjoying himself. Old Zhang clicked his tongue. "Boy, I think you shouldn't be a spirit gatherer. Be a cook. I bet you'll be very popular." Han Fei didn't seem to be sold on the idea. "I am not interested in cooking for so many people. I only cook for myself." Suddenly, Han Fei saw Zhang Qin winking at him, motioning him to follow her. Deep in the garden, Han Fei asked, "Sister Qin, what's up? Why do we have to sneak around like this?" Zhang Qin looked at Han Fei seriously. "Do you want to learn combat skills?" Chapter 79 Soul Warrior. Chapter 79 Soul Warrior. Combat skills. Of course, Han Fei wanted to learn them. When he came back from the sea a month ago, he had realized this problem. His current combat skills were too scarce. In addition to attacking with his rod, all he knew was spiritual energy explosion attacks. He felt that even Little Black was more useful than him because he could bite people. Han Fei immediately said, "Sure. Sister Qin, are you going to teach me combat skills?" Zhang Qin nodded. "I can teach you, but you have to promise me something." Han Fei asked, "What is it?" "It's useless to tell you now, but you have to make a promise. If one day you become a strong soul warrior, you have to come back to the village once." Looking at Zhang Qin's serious expression, Han Fei couldn't help asking, "Strong? How strong?" "At least stronger than Fang Zi." Han Fei. Han Fei scratched his head. "Sister Qin, you're talking about Fang Zi, the legendary hidden fisher, stronger than him, is it possible?" Zhang Qin continued, "If you can't be stronger than him, then forget about it. I can teach you for free and you don't need to fulfill any promises." Han Fei had long felt that this grandfather and granddaughter pair were very strange. The old man was obviously very strong, which was obvious from his fight with the village leader. At that time, the village leader had done all he could, but the old man just moved his fingers and threw the village leader out. He was sure that Zhang Qin was very strong too. Han Fei scratched his head again. "Then, let me have a try." Zhang Qin looked at Han Fei seriously. "Think it over please. I know that you have the talent to become a spirit gatherer. When you reach the level of Fang Zi, you'll be worshipped by everyone. However, a spirit gatherer is not the one to fight in combat. Although they can control spiritual energy, it is difficult for them to achieve great results." Han Fei was confused. "So," Zhang Qin explained, "a soul warrior owns the strongest combat power and the best weapons. The best soul warrior can have both the great defensive ability of an armorist and the explosive power comparable to that of a hunter. So are you willing to become a soul warrior?" Han Fei felt as if he were dreaming. Not long ago, he didn't even know what a spirit gatherer was. When he saw the armorist of the Wang family at the fair, he thought that man looked so cool and was envious of him. But now he had not only become a spirit gatherer, but also might even become a soul warrior. Han Fei felt his heart pounding. He swallowed and asked, "Why do you choose me? You have a kind of luck that others don't have. By rights, you should have died on the sea after having so many accidents in the fisheries, but you survived. Not only that, you are getting stronger and even killed a fishing master." Han Fei's heart had a quiver. "You knew this already." Zhang Qin shook her head. "Although I haven't witnessed that battle, I knew Li Lang of the Tigers went to sea, but he never came back. He must be dead." "Sister Qin, do you choose me because of my talent?" Zhang Qin asked with a smile. "Do you have talent?" Well, Han Fei felt that he was being despised, but whatever. He could be a soul warrior. If he learned combat skills, he didn't have to keep knocking around his enemies with his rod. Zhang Qin said, "Grandpa opposes you becoming a soul warrior for a reason. There are very few people who can be engaged in two professions. Even if there are, few of them are proficient in both professions. Are you willing to take the risk?" Han Fei nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. "Yes, I am." Han Fei was certainly willing. He felt that a spirit gatherer of his current level was completely useless in battle. When his enemy attacked him, he could only use his rod. But once he became a soul warrior, he would be able to cut his enemies with a knife, stab them with a sword, or shoot them with a hidden weapon. Zhang Qin nodded slightly. "Do you know why a soul warrior is almost invincible in close combat?" Han Fei shook his head. Zhang Qin explained, "Because of their strong physique, good weapons, and adequate combat skills. This is also one of the reasons that I choose you. You have huge strength, which is something that ordinary people lack. I don't know what chance you have, but that must be the reason why you can advance so fast and have such incredible strength." Zhang Qin instructed, "Since you have made your choice, go to the village library to find me tomorrow." There was a library in the village, but no one took it seriously. It was said that the combat skills stored in it were all low-leveled. After the fishing trial, Han Fei was allowed to enter the library at any time to choose combat skills to practice, but he forgot about it. Now standing in front of the old building, he wondered, could there be any good stuff in this shabby building? Zhang Qin saw Han Fei's face and asked, "Why is that look on your face? Do you despise the library?" "No, haha, I just think the design of our village's library is, very simple." Zhang Qin said calmly, "Not only you, many people despise this library and don't believe there can be any books about advanced combat skills here. But who tells you that the more advanced the combat skills, the better?" Han Fei tilted his head and looked at her. "Aren't they?" Zhang Qin shook her head. "The higher the level of a combat skill, the more difficult it is to practice. In contrast, the lower its level, the easier it is to practice. For a soul warrior, any combat skill that is practical is good. Even the worst combat skill can be used in combat, can't it?" Han Fei clicked his tongue. Although what Zhang Qin said seemed to make sense, no one really wanted a junk combat skill. Besides, even if it was a low-leveled combat skill in itself, it was not necessarily a low-leveled one in his hands. He had a demon purification pot, right? Zhang Qin gave him the first task. "Now go in, choose the combat skills you are interested in and take them out." Han Fei asked, "How many books can I take out?" "As many as you want. After all, even if you take them out, I will not necessarily let you learn them." Han Fei. There was only an old man guarding the library, who looked like a janitor. Han Fei glanced at him, wondering if this old man was a recluse master. But this old man was so ordinary and looked as if he might die at any moment. Han Fei shook his head. How can there be so many recluse masters? He entered the library. As he expected, it was dilapidated inside and the wooden floor creaked when he stepped on it. The bookshelves looked as if they would fall down at any moment and there were many clusters of spider webs in the corners. "Oh, isn't there a janitor here? How come there are so many spider webs?" Unlike what was said that the higher the level a combat skill was, the higher floor it would be placed on in the library, this library had only one floor. Han Fei stepped forward and found that there were fingerprints on some books. Obviously, the library still had visitors, but there was too much dust here. Each time he touched a book, it would leave a fingerprint on the book. But there were still many books full of dust and without any fingerprints. Han Fei glanced over: rod skill, fist skill outline, fishing skill, iron fist art, iron fishing rod, and fish chopping knife. A bunch of books that gave him no desire to read were placed here. Han Fei twitched the corner of his mouth. Since the village library was like this, the town library probably wouldn't be better. Not minding the dust, Han Fei searched all the way and looked at each book's name. Whenever he found a book's name pleasing to his eyes, he took it out and threw it on the ground and then chose from these books. 7 Knife Choppings. The name looks nice. Keep it. Ho, Infinite Cudgel, nice. Keep it. Sword in Sleeve, it sounds like some hidden weapon. Keep it. Windy Rod, maybe it can be useful. Keep it. Rod Shaking Technique, is it used for fishing? Can it be better than my hook kiss? Not interested. More than half an hour later, Zhang Qin was stunned to see that Han Fei came out with a stack of books that was up to his chin. Zhang Qin was helpless. Can you read all these books? No, help me choose some. I have selected a few books myself. I feel pretty good about them. Zhang Qin agreed. Show me the books you've selected. Han Fei pulled out 3 books from the bottom, which were respectively, Wind and Waves Technique, The Strongest Invincible Rod Technique, and Sea-Splitting Sword Art. Zhang Qin. Han Fei was still smug. It took him a lot of energy to find these 3 amazing books. However, Zhang Qin frowned and threw these 3 books to the ground at random. So you just choose your combat skills based on the name. Did you only pick those with nice names? Han Fei replied, yes. I think an author who can work out such an amazing name for his book must be somebody. Am I wrong? The fisher who wrote the Sea-Splitting Sword Art, was somebody indeed. After finishing this book, he went to an ordinary fishery with a sword and was killed by a blade fish. Han Fei. Zhang Qin continued, as for the author of the Wind and Waves Technique, he wrote this book as soon as he became a fishing master. Then he went to a level 1 fishery to brave wind and waves but ended up being stabbed to death by a swordfish. Han Fei. Han Fei asked carefully, then what about the author of the Strongest Invincible Rod Technique? Zhang Qin shot this one down too. Well, he accidentally knocked himself to death with his rod. Han Fei. Chapter 85 Basic Combat Skills. Chapter 80. 5 Basic Combat Skills. Han Fei felt that these authors were too unreliable as they had simply ruined their legacies. Zhang Qin wanted to look through the rest of the selection. Okay, let me see the rest. Standing in front of Han Fei, Zhang Qin picked up a book and threw it away. The author of 9-level sword had chi deviation when he was still studying the first level of this combat skill. Not this one. This sea cudgel is mediocre and is not as good as the sweeping stick you practiced. You can throw these away. This broken knife art is full of empty talk and isn't practical at all. Not suitable for you. Han Fei watched Zhang Qin throw away the books one by one dumbfounded. In the end, there were only 5 books left. Han Fei asked, Sister Qin, are you going to throw them all away? Didn't you say that the level of combat skill is not important? Why are you still so picky about them? Zhang Qin was silent for a moment. I overestimated your ability to choose. Han Fei, I found that half of the books you chose are about hidden weapons. Do you know that hidden weapons are exclusively used by hunters? Han Fei replied, isn't it a good thing to strike when the enemy is unprepared? Han Fei liked hidden weapons. Technically, Little Black was a kind of hidden weapon. Zhang Qin explained, soul warriors prefer head-on attacks. Although they are not forbidden from using hidden weapons, in most cases, they don't use them. Can I study 1 or 2 hidden weapons as my killer punch? I've kept one for you. Learn these 5 combat skills first. Han Fei glanced at the 5 books in her hands, which were respectively Gusty Rod, Stormy Footwork, Blood Boiling, Fast Knife Technique, and Elusive Grapper. Han Fei returned to the plantation happily with the 5 books. I'm going to be a soul warrior. When I become a soul warrior, I'll crush my enemies' heads easily. As for a person like Li Ju, I'll be able to kill him with one cut. In the plantation, old Zhang cast a disapproving glance at Han Fei and said, "You should be more ambitious." Han Fei. Old Zhang sneered. "Do you know that in any combat a soul warrior must fight at the forefront? They have the highest mortality rate, and are the target of everyone's blow." Han Fei questioned, "Oh, is it dangerous to be a soul warrior?" "Of course. Spirit gatherers and soul warriors are the souls of a team. Soul warriors are always the first to die in a battle, and then it's the armorists. Do you think you can be the exception?" Han Fei scratched his head and took a breath. "Okay, let me disguise myself as a spirit gatherer in combat." "Yes, then everyone will try to protect me in combat." "Old Zhang, FCK off. I don't care what combat skills you learn, you've gotta till the land first. Only when you get proficient in spirit concentration art can you proceed to the next stage of the study." "Alright, Grandpa." Han Fei had no idea what he was going to study at the next stage, but he didn't remember he had ever studied anything here. Apart from reciting books and tilling the land, he literally learned nothing. Han Fei sat on the ground holding the 5 books and quickly browsed them. Soon, he figured out why Zhang Xin chose them for him. The characteristic of Gusty Rod was its fast speed, but the strength was not strong enough. However, he could make up for this weakness. Stormy footwork was also to increase his speed. If he couldn't resist his enemy, he could escape with this art. But then he wondered if he could use this footwork at sea. Boiling blood was not exactly a combat skill, but a technique to improve his explosive power. It consumed a lot of chi and spiritual energy to activate the spiritual energy in his body and stimulate his body, so as to improve his strength in the short term. Fast knife technique and elusive grapper were easier to understand. Fast knife technique was a technique about a flying knife, and elusive grapper was a skill to make your hand muscle more flexible. He would be able to use hidden weapons better with the 2 techniques. Gee, that's really well-rounded. If I can deduce these techniques, won't my strength be greatly improved? Gusty Rod, low end. The work of an unknown person, low grade, intolerably bad. Unable to be deduced. You can try deducing a new technique from it on your own. The deduction results are random and it requires 1000 points of spiritual energy to deduce it. Han Fei gaped at the information. Low end, low grade, intolerably bad. If the author hears your comments, he may jump out of his coffin in anger. Han Fei smiled. 1000 points of spiritual energy, that's a piece of cake for me. Deduce. New data appeared in his mind. Crazy Devil's Rod, mortal level, ultra quality. The combat skill was created by a genius fisher 300 years ago when he was hunted by his enemy. With this combat skill, he killed 2 fishing masters and 9 fishers and then died of exhaustion of spiritual energy. It tends to make people crazy and lose reason. Do use it with care. You can try deducing a new technique from it on your own. The deduction results are random and it requires 10,000 points of spiritual energy to deduce it. Han Fei immediately took a deep breath. Wow, deduce an ultra-quality technique with only 10,000 points of spiritual energy. But the guy who created this technique was really awesome. He killed 2 fishing masters and 9 fishers although he was only a fisher. But then Han Fei remembered that he also killed 1 fishing master and dozens of level 9 fishers not long ago. Han Fei continued to deduce, only to find that the 5 combat skills were all low end. He thought to himself, the combat skills from the village library were lame indeed. I should find some better combat skills from the town or the city. 10 minutes later, all the combat skills had been deduced. Wind footwork, mortal level, ultra quality. 900 years ago, a fishing master came across a gale, and feeling the power of the wind, he created the wind footwork. With this technique, one can ride the wind for as long as 800 meters. The speed is average. You can try deducing a new technique from it on your own. The deduction results are random and it requires 10,000 points of spiritual energy to deduce it. Fury, mortal level, ultra quality. 200 years ago, a soul warrior fused his chi, blood, and spiritual energy and thus brought out his maximal strength to save a friend in danger. The strength that can be improved depends on the physique of the specific person. It can only be used once within a day. You can try deducing a new technique from it on your own. The deduction results are random and it requires 10,000 points of spiritual energy to deduce it. Universe machete, mortal level, ultra quality. 500 years ago, a great genius created this technique on the first day he came to touch a machete. All the user's spiritual energy will be drained when this technique is used. The user will lose all his spiritual energy after using it. You can try deducing a new technique from it on your own. The deduction results are random and it requires 10,000 points of spiritual energy to deduce it. Shadowless hands, mortal level, divine quality. In ancient times, a cultivator weaved a giant spiritual net with spiritual energy. When he finished weaving the net, he was inspired to create the shadowless hands. You can try deducing a new technique from it on your own. The deduction results are random and it requires 10,000 points of spiritual energy to deduce it. Han Fei was very satisfied with the deduced techniques, especially the last one, which was a divine quality combat skill. Although it was only an auxiliary skill, with this book alone, it was worthwhile for him to go to the village library. But to his disappointment, among the 5 techniques, except for the shadowless hands, the other 4's disadvantages were too obvious. Crazy Devil's Rod may drive him crazy. Wind footwork had to be practiced at sea. Fury didn't look practical. The only thing he could try was how much combat power would be increased after he used this technique. As for Universe Machete, once he used it, his spiritual energy would be drained, which made the skill look like chicken ribs. Pondering for a while, Han Fei used Fury to fuse his spiritual energy, chi, and blood. At the next moment, he felt that his body was inflating. His eyes turned bloodshot and the blue veins on his neck protruded. Dong! Han Fei hit the ground with a fist, leaving a big pit in the ground. He felt that if he met Li Lang again, he should be able to fight him head-on without Little Black's help. Only holding on for several minutes, Han Fei sat on the ground, panting. Not bad, but I'm aching a bit all over and don't feel very well. 3 days later, Zhang Qin came to visit him. According to her estimation, these simple combat skills were very quick to learn and would only take Han Fei 3 days at most to master them, so she came to check his mastery now.